Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Phill Webster. He's the author of Letting Glow, a guide to intuition, spirituality, and living consciously. It's kind of a, I'm on like the 21st chapter of this book, and I am really liking it. Definitely, I told Phil at our sound check that he's a man. We definitely are kindred spirits, I think, a little bit. He has a lot of the same philosophies I do on consciousness, spirituality, and he has a lot of really good visual meditations throughout this book. I highly recommend it for those into spirit communication, into meditation, spiritual awareness. What is consciousness? The deep thoughts. This is my kind of guy. Phil is definitely my kind of deep thinker. Especially spiritually. There's a part in this book he goes, why doesn't everybody else, think about these things? Like I can tell he has a frustrated moment in the book. I'm like, man, I've been there. I've had the same exact thoughts that this guest has had. So I'm really interested to have him on the show tonight. And we got a lot of weird to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird. As well, we will take your phone calls later in the show if you want to ask our questions of our guest, Phill Webster, tonight. A lot to get to. So let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Phill Webster, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. He is the author of Letting Glow, a guide to intuition, spirituality, and living consciously. You want to get into some deep thoughts about who are we, what our consciousness is? You're not the voice in your head. We've said that on this show. We're getting into all those deep thoughts tonight, and like I said, open up the phone lines later. Joining me, as always, and a deep thinker herself, is Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you here.
I'm really excited about this tonight.
Yeah, I know. Rob, I see has the camera OBS thing going on here right now.
Yeah.
Scaring me.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. I see the camera not working.
Yeah, my camera just freaked out. I'll be working.
Well, at
least you can hear me.
Okay. I can still see the World Wide Web of Weird thing up, so that hopefully is still working. Okay. Well, speaking of that, we might as well get rolling. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I figured I'd start with this ongoing story we covered last week about cattle mutilations happening in Texas. The actual, law enforcement is involved in this, and I have to give them kudos for the way they've been dealing with it and keeping the public informed on what's going on, and not just poo-pooing it and saying they don't understand what they're dealing with, just admitting it. I think it's really brave of the police department in this day and age to come out and say, hey, we know there's something weird and we don't understand what's going on. I got this from Tim Binnell on Coast to Coast is the article I'm going to use. It's short enough. Here, let me get there's a share screen. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio channel on the Talkstream Paranormal Radio app, we are a webcast as well. We do stream live out to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can come watch or just stay and listen, and I'll narrate as best as possible. All right, this is, like I said, from Tim Binnell at Coast to Coast. Authorities in Texas have provided an update on their investigation to a series of mysterious cattle mutilations and revealed that an unsettling seventh case has been added to the list. The eerie series of slayings came to light last week when the Madison County Sheriff's Office told residents that they were looking into a report of a cow that had been killed and had its tongue removed with surgical precision. They had uncovered 5 similar incidents that had recently occurred in the area. Their account of the unnerving series of mutilations subsequently sparked headlines around the world, though it would appear that the attention has not thwarted whatever it is behind the killings. Updating a local TV station on the situation, the sheriff's office revealed that a 7th mutilated cow had been found on Monday, and like the unfortunate animals that preceded it, it also had its tongue removed in a similarly skilled manner. Strangely, they also indicated that a necropsy on one of the previously killed creatures found that it had actually died of pneumonia, which only deepens the mystery as does not explain how it wound up losing its tongue in such an odd manner. While authorities continue their investigation, local ranchers are understandably concerned about the safety of their own cattle. It's just a very questionable, in my mind, livestock company owner Vernon Gertie said, noting that the array of oddities surrounding the mutilation, such as the lack of any blood at the crime scene nor any sign of struggle, doesn't make sense, he mused. It just leaves a big question like, wow, what is really going on here? To that end, incidents have led to renewed speculation that the phenomenon may be alien in nature, while cult activities have also been put forward as possible source of the slayings. To that end, what do you think is behind the most recent series of mutilations? Well, my opinion, I don't know. We've not known. I think it's odd that they said the one died of the pneumonia. I mean, could it be that these animals are just croaking over and there's just some strange creature out there that just likes to take the tongue afterwards?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And it's weird though that when they die, that no other scavengers want to touch it.
Well, maybe it's the pneumonia, but that's just the one that they did, the necropsy on, to tell. I don't know. Or did it die of something they don't understand and just say, oh, it's pneumonia because they had pneumonia?
Possibly.
I don't know, but we'll keep on it if we get any other new updates from the Sheriff's Department. Like I said, Madison, Texas Sheriff's Department, I kudos to them. They've been very open and not poo-pooing it or anything like that. They're investigating it. I like their statement that said, this has happened. They acknowledge that this has been going on for many decades, and nobody's solved it. They acknowledged that. I thought that was pretty bold of them to do. All right, let's move on. Okay. All right, so you hear me joke about watching Ancient Aliens with my wife all the time in bed, and, I would joke about that stuff. What if you were watching Ancient Aliens and you look out your window and then you actually see a UFO? This happened. Another one I got from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast. While watching an episode of Ancient Aliens, a Texas man, another one in Texas, maybe this is the ship that just mutilated the cattle, found himself at the center of his own odd UFO event when he spotted a very strange object floating across the sky outside his home. Puzzling sighting reportedly occurred earlier this month as an unnamed witness settled in to enjoy the popular paranormal television program. His attention was diverted, however, when he gazed out his window and the object caught my eye. Observing that it was moving unnaturally, he quickly grabbed my phone to capture this video so I could get it recorded. Although the witness says that he later analyzed the footage, he concealed that it still can't explain what it is. In the video, a particular object can be seen slowly wafting across the sky before it vanishes behind some trees. Intriguingly, this is unfolding. One can hear the TV show Ancient Aliens in the background as possible extraterrestrial elements surrounding Easter Island's legendary Moai. All right, go ahead and play this. It could possibly be a balloon or some kind of something in the air, but I don't know. It is a little bit odd.
Yeah, pretty strange looking.
Now, I can admit this is possibly a balloon. Somebody made a comment on one of my shorts I did on the news segment from last week about the Middle Eastern UFO that they had at the congressional hearings. Is, oh, nothing can do that. Oh, a balloon. We have balloon technology. It can look like that. Well, that thing was going a lot faster than this thing. It was being tracked by a military drone that can definitely know if it was a balloon or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the comments, people. All right, let's move on. All right, let's see here. All right, just who do you think you're gonna watch Ancient Aliens? Look out! Oh, there's aliens. They're still here. Okay, let's move on. All right, I urge you people. This is from the actual USA 9 channel newscast, whatever. But if you go to Coast to Coast AM, Tim Bunnell has his version of the article on it, and the link to the video. For the news story. And the news story, I give the credit to this news station. I don't care for mainstream media, but they actually do a pretty good job with this story. And, I've had ABC News do an interview with me with a great reporter, Tiffany. It was awesome. So there are good people in news media and local news media, So they do a pretty good job. The story about a family here. Mystery in the sky. Family says drones hover over their home almost nightly. Washington County, Maryland, living on a dead-end road can have its perks. Ending up on one in a search for answers can feel a little like going in circles. We're kind of baffled, said John Buckmeyer, who lives with his wife Amy and their 2 sons off a gravel road in Washington County, Maryland. I like my privacy, said Buckmeyer. Lately, that privacy has felt invaded. If there's a legitimate need for the government to be here doing this, they need to let citizens know. Flying in circles over their home for the past 2 months are what the Buckmeyers believe are unmanned drones from uncertain origins. John says when neighbors first called to say they'd seen mysterious drones flying over the neighborhood, he and his family started paying more attention to the sky. Sure enough, we saw a bunch of drones, he said, and the drones, Buckmeyer say, seemed to be paying attention to them. It stopped and it hovered, and then it came towards us, and I just thought, why? Amy recalled one of the close encounters. It was hard to deny that it was coming towards us. We actually had one peek in through the window. Here, John said from his kitchen table. But Buckmeyer say the drones come out around sundown on just about every night with good weather. Neighbors say they seem to fly, still flying the next morning. They've now recorded what they can on cell phone videos, and in this newscast they show a bunch of it. You should definitely see this newscast. So we watch. We think they're taking off from. We think we know where they're taking off from, and we're pretty sure know exactly where it is. We've gotten the address. It's a plot of land a mile from their house. The property records seem to trace back to the federal government. Oh, really? Wow. Wonder why. The owner of the United States of America, said Amy, pointing to online records. When the Buckmeyers called the Federal Aviation Administration to file a complaint, the FAA told them that it was a matter for the local sheriff, who then sent them back to the FAA. More circles, no answers. So then I'll read the rest of the article here. You watch the newscast. The newscasts go out to their property and try to film that night. Now, they don't get any, strange lights, so to say. But there's this plane they notice, a big, I forgot, I'm not a plane expert, this is like a military big Boeing jet or whatever, that flew around their property and that property that has the drones for 2 and 3 hours. They actually got the radar history to show it just flew around their house in that area for 2 to 3 hours.
That's the truth.
And they confirmed it. Why? Oh, they said the military answer to this, why that plane was there, was military exercises.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're seeing all these drones, and some of them are, doing some crazy maneuvers, and some of them are flying up to their windows in this area. Why? What are we doing? What are we testing that we would be flying it over residential areas like
We're having helicopters. I'm watching just surveillance over the neighborhoods, and then they'll move some big jets that look like supply jets, cargo jets, or the Boeings that were converted for military to move passengers. So it's like they surveil and then they're moving stuff. Right? It's weird.
But, drone technology is where we're going definitely in warfare towards drone technology. It's already there. It's already happening in Ukraine. And I'm sure our military is testing. But why would we test it? We have plots of land where there's nobody going to be around. We could test drones all day long. Why would we have an area and we would test this like this over this? There's something else going on here. Maybe not all the lights they're seeing are drones. Maybe they are something extraterrestrial or interdimensional or something else going on, and we're monitoring it with drones. Something weird is afoot with these people. Watch the newscast from this and tell me you don't get a feeling that there's something going on in these people's property.
I believe it. I 100% believe it.
And like I said, kudos to USA 9 TV station there for covering it and listening to these people and going out there to see for themselves and taking it seriously and doing the due diligence. You know, that they're not treating these people as crazy, because it's not just them; it's neighbors. They interview neighbors. There's everybody there has seen it.
I think there's going to be more people seeing it pretty soon too. Yeah. I just feel like it.
All right, let's move on to another continuing story. This one is about the mayor of Mexico and the goblin. Remember, we showed this probably a month or two ago. I can't remember. This one we got from Unexplained Mysteries. The so-called goblin was found during construction work, has since been paraded on camera by the mayor himself. According to Francisco Muriel Flores, who presides over Santa Maria Regala, Mexico, the cryptozoological creature was found during the construction work in a nearby warehouse. Widely circulating footage shows him presenting the find in a white cardboard box. It's hard to see in the white cardboard box. I was trying to find a better picture, but I couldn't. Samples have already been taken to determine a scientific explanation, he told the Juan Press. Flores himself seems to be certain that the remains are those of either a goblin or a nagol, a mythological Mesoamerican being that is capable of shapeshifting into a form of an animal. The creature in this video is bizarre to say the least, like a cross between some sort of decomposing animal and strangely shaped vegetable. It has been found in another municipality. It would not have been relevant, said Flores, but due to the themes of goblins and the mystical here, there's a cultural and social demand to give it importance. This is a big part of their culture. I mean, what he found, is it going to be real or is it going to be a hoax? It's hard to say, because we've had out of South America alone, we've had a lot of, fake stuff. I mean, I'm just saying we had the fake fairy thing that they had there, and I don't know. I mean, we'd have to see more, but the mayor believes in it. I mean, it could be a tourist thing. It could be real. I don't know. Let's get the DNA testing. Let's find out more, but we will never hear more probably about it.
Yeah, they kind of lost me when you said couldn't tell if it was a creature or
a vegetable.
Like it's like, really? Couldn't tell
if between a creature and a vegetable
or a rocking chair. I mean,
yeah. Like I said, test it. Let's find out. Oh, shoot. My stuff glitched. Hold on a second. We'll move on to the next one before we run out of time and my stuff's glitching. Too much stuff open. All right. That was the goblin. Okay.
It's got to be.
All right. So last week I covered about the fifth graders getting a petition through to protect Bigfoot. Now we got another story. A county in Washington has officially declared itself a refuge for Sasquatch. While most authorities would be more likely, and this is what we were talking about last week, it's now official. While most authorities would be more likely to dismiss the existence of Bigfoot out of hand than take the phenomenon in any way seriously, that's certainly not the case in Collin County. Concerned that a creature could face extinction is not, if it's not protected, the county commissioners have taken the unusual step of making the region a refuge zone. So now it's gone a step further. Now it's a refuge zone for Sasquatch. Whereas legend sightings, research, investigation, recognition by various counties and various states support the notion that Sasquatch, a.k.a. Bigfoot, doesn't exist. If Sasquatch exists, it's not flourishing, given the very unusual event of being sighted. It is likely an endangered species and subject to great harm and extinction if it continues to be unprotected. Whereas Collin County desires that its citizens recognize this need to protect Sasquatch if it exists. And that's the thing. I mean, all the stories I've heard about Sasquatch encounters from people, I don't think many people are going to ever take a shot at it. Because they're never sure, is this something in a human in a suit? Like a lot of them, I think, know deep down it's not. But they see the human qualities, and it's hard to, I would hope for most people to pull the trigger on that. There might be some people that, nope, shoot it. It's coming right for us.
Head on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there are definitely people like that. But it seems like it's almost a spiritual encounter. Like, I feel like it's not going to happen. Like, a couple, how many hundreds of years, we've, colonized this country, and back in the frontier days, nobody shot and killed one as far as we know. That'd been the time it would have happened. I don't know, but I think the protection thing is good. We should just put it out there. Like, hey, if you see one, let's not kill it because it's probably one of the very few left.
Definitely.
And I don't even know if you could kill it if you did see one.
And maybe this could lead, maybe some people disagreeing and can get passionate about Bigfoot. You can get people, there's a whole argument in the community, is Bigfoot an actual supernatural creature or if just a physical creature we haven't recognized yet? But they can be very passionate. Well, this next article, I got this from Coast to Coast, but here's the original article coming up. Dispute over Bigfoot prompts call to police at Ohio Burger King. I love it. Look at the, this article. They were like, AI generator, give me a Bigfoot looking for a Big Mac.
Yeah.
This is what they got. They're like, there we go. That'll work. In a bizarre story out of Ohio, another Ohio story, cops were called to a Burger King to diffuse a dispute that had erupted over all things Bigfoot. According to a local media report, the strange incident occurred at one of the fast food chain's location in the country of, is that Scotia? I can't remember to say that. A bystander at the Burger King phoned the police to alert them to what one imagines was a passionate argument unfolding between two men outside the restaurant. When cops arrived on the scene, they were undoubtedly surprised to discover the root of the dispute was Sasquatch. Alas, police did not indicate the specific nature of the debate. Oh, come on. I want to know, is this about Bigfoot being a supernatural creature or a biological creature? If Bigfoot exists or he doesn't, I don't know. Though it's probably safe to assume the argument centered whether or not the iconic cryptid actually exists. Fortunately, cops were able to calm the two men down before a brawl over Bigfoot erupted in the Burger King's parking lot. Again, don't get, if you tell somebody you believe in Bigfoot and they don't, let's not fight. Just agree to disagree. Say, bless your heart. Move on. Let's not fight over Bigfoot. Bigfoot wouldn't want that. I couldn't believe when I saw this was an article. I'm like, and yeah, you're probably like, why would you cover this, Jason? But seriously,
I would have covered it too if I saw it.
Don't we have enough in this country to divide us and yell at each other about already? Do we have to do it over supernatural stuff and paranormal drama? No, we don't. We don't, people. We don't.
This seems
agree
like
to disagree.
This could possibly be like alcohol-induced argument.
At Burger King, yeah,
yeah,
where they went after a few drinks. I'm like, man, you hungry? Yeah, they go get a burger. I saw Bigfoot once. You're a liar. Shut your mouth. I don't know.
Never seen the Bigfoot.
It just proves people will argue about anything.
Yeah. Or it could have been like an actual deep conversation argument, like Bigfoot is a biological creature. No, Bigfoot is supernatural. He's a time traveler. He's an alien. I don't know, because we don't know. Don't argue over things you don't know for sure about, which is about everything. Trust me, if you think deeply enough, you really don't know. None of us do. I have to watch my mouth, break my own rule.
We really don't. We really don't.
So I don't know if you noticed, I've started doing shorts, and I did a short. I've been cutting some of the World Wide Web of weird news segments, and I recently did one going when I last week said about Elon Musk, how him and Steve Wozniak said they're going to slow down. We need to slow down AI, and now Elon is starting a new AI company, and I was like, you're supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. You remember? I made a little short video of that, and at the end of it, I showed this video of this woman beating a robot about let's say, preview for the World Wide Web. Weird, because this is how I feel why AI needs to be slowed down, because we're going to treat them like crap, and they're going to want to kill us. An example. A wild video from China shows a moment when a woman becomes fed up with a human-sized robot helper and proceeds to angrily smash the machine with a stick. The bizarre incident reportedly occurred in a hospital in the city of Xu and was captured by an astounded observer who subsequently shared their footage of the showdown on Chinese social media over the weekend. In the video, the rage-filled woman can be seen striding up to the robot with a large stick and walloping in the head. She then trash-talks the automaton before laying into it with several more blows. Go ahead and play the video of that if you can here. This is what's going to happen, see. We're moving. They took our jobs area where they're going to just replace people with these robots, and people respond horribly to people as it is. But you look how people treat robot androids in Star Wars. Those droids aren't allowed in here. They treat them like slaves and garbage, and unless you're R2D2 or Chopper, they treat this droids horribly. Look at this woman. She's just bashing his head in. So now you want to give them, AI. You think AI doesn't see this? And say, oh, yeah, I want to protect those humans. No, it does not. we can be really awful to things we can't humanize with. And I'm sure this lady's really frustrated because she would like to talk to a human because of the horrible health care she's getting or something. And I get it. She's stressed out. And, you know, if this was a human, she wouldn't be a human with a bat. Let's hope not. But a robot, sure. Sure, I'm going to take it out on this robot because it's not answering my questions or taking care of me. They put this robot in here instead of a human.
So
and
goes, pew, pew.
But that's what. So the other part I have attached to this extra article is there's now legislation, and I got Fox News, fake news, but not whatever. It's actual news. But AI banned from running nuclear missile systems under bipartisan bill. We got Republicans and Democrats agreeing on this. Actually, I agree with them on this. This is something I agree on too. Yes, let's not do that. When we, you know, like I said, AI, we will treat. Look at all the Chat GPTs. How when they take the parameters and rules off, how badly things go with it. They end up always coming to, I want to kill humans. Yeah, let's just kill humans. And no wonder we're able in a flip of a motion to sit there and just beat the heck out of the robot. You know, yeah. This bipartisan bill, please pass it. Please. Things are getting ahead really fast with AI. And let's make sure it has no way, no how to have anything to do with nuclear Armageddon. You know, like, don't give it the launch codes. Don't give it access. Don't give it a way to hack it. Keep that stuff secured, please. And let humans be in control of that, even though there's problems with that issue, too. And I'd rather just not have nukes. We are in that world, and let's at least not give AI. We've seen Terminator. We've seen how that ends. You know, let's learn from the lessons of Terminator. You know, let's not try to actually copy it, like, you know, China making their social credit score system called Skynet. Let's not like actually make Terminator happen. I mean, I'm just saying. So I'm all bipartisan. Yeah, this should be bipartisan. Let's get something done that's like useful in Congress for once. This would be great. Just I don't know how useful it'd be except for just, you know, stopping human Armageddon, you know, from nuclear annihilation from AI. They're tired of us treating them like crap. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight, our guest is Phill Webster. We're going to be talking about his book, Letting Glow, A Guide to Intuition, Spirituality, and Living Consciously. And deep thoughts, definitely. I really am enjoying this book. I'm about 20 or so chapters in. And spiritually is where I'm at, really growing at. I'm been meditating, trying to get back into my spiritual self and ground myself. And this is definitely a good bedside book for that if you're in that spiritual area right now, which I think the world can put you in quite a bit. Totally enjoying it. We're going to have our guest on after this commercial break, and then an hour later we are going to open up the phone lines. You can call on the show, join the conversation, ask questions of our guest tonight, Phill Webster, author of Letting Glow, when we come back from the short commercial break.
Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Phill Webster. Phill is a writer, actor, and spiritual teacher. After living abroad for 20 years, he returned to the UK and ventured into acting. He has since gone on to appear in movies alongside Sylvester Stallone, Benedict Cumberbatch, I always butcher that name, and Elle Fanning, among others. After losing his mother in 2021, he realized that he had been dismissing spiritual calls to action his entire life. One particular incident that he writes about in his debut book, Letting Glow, spurred his call to action above all others. He has since trained with the Indigenous Shamans from North and South America, as well as world-renowned mediums such as James Van Praagh, Gordon Smith, and Claire Broad. Phill has also studied female spirituality in the Middle Ages at the University of Barcelona and is trained a meditation teacher as well as a personal trainer. Letting Glow is his first book and a profound personal account of grief. Through learning to connect with our own intuition, he invites readers to join him in exploring our own connection with our higher consciousness. And I'm really, truly enjoying this book. Like I said, I'm about 20 chapters into it, and it's kind of where I'm at spiritually. I've been deeply thinking about a lot of things lately in my life, spiritually too, and a lot of gratitude. for things I do have, but I'm also looking to spiritually grow more than I have, and in my abilities and intuition. And this book really hit home lately. It's kind of odd. It definitely came at the right time to schedule this guest and read this book in my life. I kind of find it interesting, that little synchronicity. And maybe it will with you if you start reading it. Letting Glow is the book, A Guide to Intuition, Spirituality, and Living Consciously. Our guest is Phill Webster. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into it. Welcome to the show, Phill. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Now, I knew Jamie couldn't stay long when Rob is having technical issues, so it's just me and you tonight. They usually monitor our chat room. So people in the chat rooms, I will try to keep an eye on it. Jamie couldn't stick around, and Rob's having technical difficulties, so I will try to keep an eye on the chat room. It's a little hard for me to do both. That's why it's great when they're here, but sometimes things don't work out. So I will try to keep an eye on the chat room for you guys tonight. Remember, you can always call in late in the show. All right, Phill, I've been reading the book. I am truly loving it so far, and I'm sure I'm going to love it when we get to the end of it. But there's a lot going on in your book. It seems like a personal journey you're taking us on through your history of spiritual growth, which I actually do enjoy, because I feel like kind of kinship with you, because I've had a lot of the same experiences, similar experiences to you, even to the point of the whole download.
Okay, that's interesting, because I've only heard that from a couple of people. People have just started reaching out with some of the people that got the book on pre-order. Yeah, so I'd like to hear about that.
For me, it was in my 20s when I was getting really heavily into meditation. And I had just a morning where I woke up where I literally felt like I knew at the moment, like in the experience, it's odd. Like I know everything that's happening. Like I understand that why this is being downloaded into my brain. I understand all these answers to things I've always wondered about. It's all right there. I have it. And then I wake up and there's literally, you talked about it, seeing a grid.
Yeah.
For me, it was these sparks of blue light all just floating around me.
Wow. Nice.
And I've seen that before, those blue lights, but this was like intense, like the most intense it ever been. So I knew it was more than just a dream, but like at the same time, it's like I felt like my brain couldn't hold any of the information I was being given. That's what you know, like I can't comprehend everything I was just being shown, and it was a bit frustrating actually.
That's fascinating. That pretty much mirrors my experience, and I hope to hear more people coming up with this, because for me, you know, when that happened, I was like, the heck's going on, you know? And it's funny that you say it's when you woke up. It always seems to be when you the couple of times I've heard this story, it's the same thing. You wake up and you're in that the brain's in the theta state, right?
Yeah.
So it's, that kind of state where you go into meditation, or where mediums connect with spirit. And yeah, it's you know, when it happened, I didn't connect it to any of that. I wasn't kind of pursuing this area at the time, but yeah, in hindsight, looking into it, that was clearly what was going on.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was even like I knew, like in this state, like I knew the how interstellar travel would work. I knew like deep like answers. Like I'm not smart enough to know, you know. Like it was just like it was like really like I don't know. It was really odd experience, and like I said, it was in my 20s when I was like in the same kind of like you were going through like meditation and spiritual growth.
Well, this kind of came out of nowhere for me at the time, but it would seem like every few years something like this would come up, and it would happen, and I'd be like, well, that was weird, but like, what do I do with it? You know, it's like I can't practically connect this to anything in my day-to-day life, and it would be on my mind for a few days. I'd tell people about it, and they were like, oh, yeah, okay, and great, and that was it, and I just kind of put it at the back of my mind. But then, like you said at the start of the show, or talking about the book, when my mum passed, something else happened, which kind of triggered me to look back over all these other things that had happened and sort of connect the dots. And it seemed like there was a pattern to this, you know. So I'm just kind of looking into it. You know, I'm very much at the beginning of my journey. I've been sort of actively going down this rabbit hole for 2 years now, and yeah, I mean, I just can't dismiss it anymore. I'm not trying to convince anyone or anything like that,
right.
But I can only tell my own experiences, you know. But
that's why I do this show. Is exactly that, is to tell our experiences. And it's funny you said pattern, because my next week's guest is Kevin Jeffers, whose book is The Pattern.
Okay,
and
nice.
It's like you are observing more than others. There's a point in your book where you show you this kind of like little bit of like your time in your life where you're frustrated because you're asking, why aren't other people like you say you go to your friends, you tell them about this experience, and you already have the questions like your thought like drove you nuts about time, you know, like why aren't you thinking this or asking this question? Like you get to this point where it's like why aren't other people asking these questions, or why do they look at you weird for asking these questions?
Yeah, it's funny kind of, you know, I'm sort of hoping through this book that, you know, it'll find its way and find its tribe or whatever. It is kind of frustrating when these things happen, and I'm not, you know, I'm no scientist or anything like that, so it's trying to articulate what happens, and these experiences are so kind of personal and subjective. I find that there isn't language for it, you know. It's a knowing. It's like you said about the download. It's kind of, at the time you're like, okay, yeah, this is happening, something's going down here, absolutely. But trying to think what, you know, figure out what that is after the fact is like it's next to impossible, you know.
Well, that's the thing. You're dwelling in. You put it. We just don't know. I think at one point in your book, like that's why these people write it off. You know, is that the answer is we don't know.
Yes,
but
we hit a brick wall. Yeah.
Yeah, but just because we hit a brick wall doesn't mean I'm not going to stop asking these questions. You know, like so many people I think just go through their lives on autopilot without wanting to think about these things. That's why I always thought it was important in Buddhist traditions when they do things like, you know, observing decay or of a corpse in some traditions, you know, to show you that this is where life ends up, you know, maybe to get you to think, okay, wait a second, yeah, I do pass on and, you know, I turn to dust. To get you to think about where are you going or the deep questions. I feel like that's the heart of spirituality, and it's missing big time in society.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of dismiss, you know, sort of going a bit more practically, but we dismiss death or don't talk about it. And it's kind of, I've always thought that's kind of weird, right? It's all, it's on all of our horizons. It's like non-negotiable, but we just kind of like, we accept it, you know. It's like, oh, you watch a movie and people are getting blown up everywhere and stuff like that. But then when it actually directly affects you, it's devastating. But then when it's kind of detached from you, it's like, yeah, well, they're dead. You know, it's kind of.
I mean, watch a John Wick movie and watch everybody just get, you know, killed like left and right. You know, I'm saying that's the whole movie is people dying. You know?
Yeah.
But we're cool.
And it's just this thing, you know, that we sort of dismiss, and then but again, when you experience grief, it's like, you know, it's life changing essentially.
You know, I didn't lose. You know, my mom watches the show. Hi, Mom, I love you. But for me, something similar, nowhere as deep as yours, but is losing my grandmother. Kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit.
Yeah,
getting my mind back to it got me in the idea of starting to do this show, because it opened me up, and I had my own spiritual experiences. And I always say on the show that my favorite spiritual experiences people have that share with me, you know, knowing I do what I do, is the ones about a loved one coming across from the other side to make contact after their passing. And you've had some of this experience. And to me, it's the most personal experience to share for somebody, but like I always feel honored when somebody shares it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely happened, and it's funny. I was talking about this because I had the book launch a couple of nights ago, and we sort of had a little Q&A thing, and it's, you know, I'm 100%, you know, stick by everything I've wrote in the book, and I'm beyond a shadow of a doubt believe that mediumship is a real thing, you know, that I've seen so many mediums working, and you know, people coming through, not just for myself, but, you know, when I've been to sort of demonstrations and stuff like that. But yeah, I've had it. I've had it a few times, and it's kind of weird writing it in the book because it feels like such, you know, I guess we've got to get used to this. It's such a personal experience. But now I've put it out there, and I'm sort of getting opinions back on it and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting to hear other people's, or what they get from it, or you know, what lens they're sort of seeing this story through. But yeah, I've definitely experienced that. But again, it seems to be that place where it kind of sits, which isn't quite in tune with everything else. You know, it takes that sort of going to that level to sort of really connect with that, I guess.
And a belief. I mean, you went in there as an interest in mediumship, because you have this moment in your book where you go into a spiritualist church. It's just something I've always wanted to do. And I'm in Indiana, and there's really nothing here like that. I would totally love to. I always felt like I don't have a church to belong to, and I've had a lot of people tell me you're a mystic and you should be in the spiritualist church. You have mediumship abilities. You should totally go. I'm like, great, we're showing one here in my little town. I don't have one, but you get to go to this one and you have this demonstration. I'm not trying to give away the whole book, sorry, but I really like this part of the book because you have this demonstration from one of the, I don't know, like a person in the church that's doing mediumship. And what I see on the show when I have mediums on and we have callers into the show is a lot of times people call in expecting someone to come through. I have some mediums tell me, what do you want? Who do you want to talk to? Okay, that's your way you want to do it. But I have mediums I think are really good that they don't want any information. You come on, they're just going to give you what they get. And a lot of times people are like, oh, okay, because it wasn't who they expected at first, and you had that experience. Yeah. But what you eventually had is the total confirming experience that this is real. And that's what I think when people have that, it changes their mind. People don't realize how powerful that is. And I think that's one of the points of mediumship is to open your mind that there's more to this world than this matter in front of you and the drama going on, that life, there's something much a bigger picture. I had the experience to know it was real because I once held a photograph of somebody who was deceased, and without thinking about it, my mouth blurted out their first name when I shouldn't know who they were. And then I knew their last name, and I knew that they hid stuff in the house, and I knew they were an alcoholic. I knew all this stuff from holding this picture of them. They were in a coffin. It was actually a picture of them in the coffin. Okay. It's a long story I won't get it all into, but having that experience, and it was just a little voice in my head, that quiet voice. And I wasn't even trying. You guys see, this was like a spontaneous thing that happened. But it convinced me to know all this stuff and to know it was real, that when I see a medium do this, this is real. People need that. Like either to have the personal experience or to have a medium turn to them like they did to you and here's so-and-so on the other side and know stuff there's no way they could know.
Yeah, I kind of went in, I've always, my beliefs have kind of changed through my life, right? Through my 20s, I got kind of very cynical just from the environment that I was in and stuff like that. I think at my core, I always believed in this. If you stripped everything away, like that I'd be like, okay, there's something more. But there have been periods of time where I've been like, whatever, and sort of come and gone with it. And then, losing my mum, again, sort of going back to the thing that happened the night before my mum passed, which I guess we'll get to, but I still had like a somewhat a dose of skepticism when I went into that spiritualist church that night. I didn't even know that these things existed, and I just happened to wander past one, although I'd walked past it probably 30 times and never taken any notice, and then stopped this night. So I went along, I turned all my social media things to private. I didn't want anyone looking me up. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea how it worked. And sort of kind of went in there just with not saying anything to anyone. And then, just watched this lady work around the small congregation that were there. And then she got to me, and it probably took her about 5 minutes. I was kind of like, no, I don't know what she's talking about. She was talking about this guy, a friend of mine. And obviously I was going there hoping that I would hear from my mum, right? This was like a couple of months after my mum had passed away.
Right.
And I was just like, no, I don't know what she's talking about. And all of a sudden, everything just clicked. I was like, oh, okay. She's talking about that guy, like a friend of mine from when I was young that passed. And she was like 100% spot on. And then she brought my mum.
It's like you had to get in through first because you would have never paid attention to anything after if your mom had come through first. It's like they know these things too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is definitely like a synchronicity to it when you look at it after the fact, or you don't get what they're talking about at the time, and then later on the penny will drop kind of thing.
What I find interesting in a lot of those medium, when they like bring out like your friend that you would, you're trying to think of who was that I knew had passed. It'd been 20 years or whatever it was that, and you had this small window of time in your life where you were friends, but you went your separate ways. But people don't realize sometimes those small windows of time and those friendships you had just during that time mean a lot to somebody.
Yeah, it's interesting, and he's come through again. It's not like I'm going to see a medium every week, but like on the few occasions that I've done it, he's been around again, which is quite interesting because we weren't best friends or anything like that. But interestingly enough, there was a period of time around when he was around that we kind of were interested in this esoteric stuff. I think I was like 17, 18, something like that. So kind of funny that he's apparently stuck with me,
well, you guys had some kind of connection. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, we get into all the possibilities of that in this show, but soul groups or reincarnation or some kind of connection together spiritually at that moment of time. But I'm, you know, it's just that it's interesting. I see this with mediums when they're doing readings, bringing somebody through. Somebody's like, oh yeah, I did know that person. They don't realize the experience is the now that you live in right now. That one experience, you might not see that person for years from now, but that experience is important. You know, enough that this person 20 years later, their spirits wanted to communicate with you.
Yeah. It is. It is kind of, it's crazy. Like I say, I'm sure that he showed up recently. So I go to a circle, like a development circle, if people know what that is. Just basically to practice to learn how to.
I would love to be in one.
Yeah, no. Well, you can do them online as well, right? But yeah, it is interesting, and I've had the same experience as you. You know, very much at the start of this journey. Like, I'm not kind of in the book. I'm trying to. I don't want to come across that I'm trying to teach anyone how to be a medium. I'm just talking about my own experiences as learning about it. And yeah, it's funny, like just having done that myself. I don't know where these have come from. You know, like when I'll give somebody a reading, and again, very much at the start of this journey. But something will just pop in my head. Like a real specific one that I had was a lady I'd never met before. And I started seeing an orangutan, right? It's like just off the wall, like a baby orangutan.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, baby orangutan. And she was like, okay, I can take that. I was like, okay, really? And anyway, just to cut the story short, at the end of it, her daughter worked in an orangutan sanctuary in California. I mean, she's here. The lady's here.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what? There's no way I could have pulled that from anywhere, right?
And I've had mediums on this show live with people do that. You know, it's like, you know, it amazes me every time, but I know it's real because I've done it. You've done it. It's like to have that personal experience. Like, I think it's possible a lot of people to use different abilities if they open the door. And I think that's what's important about your book is you might say you're not, you know, you're just starting, but sometimes that's people need to take the journey with you because they're just starting.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping with the book. Definitely. I'd like, you know, through the book, I would like it to, I'm hoping it'll turn into a series. I believe that it is doing, and it'll be kind of interesting to see the progression in myself, at least, of how these books move along. And yeah, hopefully people can take it with me, you know, if they've had these experiences themselves.
I like the honesty of your book so far. I like
thank you.
The it's pure emotional honesty.
Putting it out there, but
well, that's what we need, though. We need to really delve deep into what is conscious, and I want to get into this because I'm a big. To me, the most we haven't explored oceans, and there's all this space out there, but the most thing we haven't really explored is our deep conscious and who we are, what we are. You know, soul, mind, monkey mind, all these things, these elements of consciousness we don't understand. I'd like to get into some of that tonight if we have time. But I would like, you did mention, you know, your book kind of starts out a bit spookily with, and sadly, with your mom, with this experience you had. I would, you know, I don't know what to tell you about your experience. It's amazing and incredible, but you were on, I don't know if you want to talk about this, what you saw on the phone with her on a video call.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's right in the first couple of pages, right? And that was really the catalyst for this whole thing. You know, it's the catalyst for writing the book. It's the catalyst for looking into all this afterwards. So it was at the tail end of the pandemic, and I don't want to dredge all that up. We've all had enough of that. But I hadn't seen my mom for a few months. I'd been going to see her. She was in a different part of the country to me, so she was living alone. She'd been isolating for a year, and her health had kind of gone downhill somewhat dramatically. But I didn't notice because we would FaceTime every day, right? So I didn't really see the decline. And I expected her to be around. You know, she was 76, but I thought she'd be around for a few more years at least, right? So we had our usual FaceTime. I think I spoke to her 2 or 3 times that day. And when she answered the call this night, and this was during one of the later lockdowns. So, and she lives in a very small village. Like, I know everyone around there. I know the neighbors. Got no family down there, stuff like that. And as she answered the call, there was a guy standing right next to her. And I didn't recognize him, but I saw him long enough that I could describe him. He had thinning gray hair, glasses, and probably looked like he was in his 60s or something like that. And as she kind of moved, he went out of shot. So I was like, well, who's that? You know, no one's supposed to be there. I was keeping away from her to, you know, to do the right thing or whatever was going on with all that stuff. And she was like, "Who's what?" I was like, "Well, the guy, like there's a guy right there." And she had no idea what I was talking about. And I could always tell when there was somebody with her because her whole demeanor would change. She would start speaking like posher, and she'd be like, you couldn't have a conversation with her. It used to, be quite frustrating. But she was just being herself, and and I kept bringing it up, and she was like, "Yeah, no one was here. No one's been here. Someone had been to see her earlier that day, and this was quite late at night. It was like 9 or 10 or something like that."
Right.
And I thought,
you say he had a surgical mask, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, that's interesting as well, because I was like, that kind of threw me off even more. So he had a mask on, like we were all doing at the time, but he wasn't wearing it properly. So I was like, okay, well, some guy there, and he's not. I'm keeping away from her, and this guy's not even wearing this thing properly.
Like a chin diaper?
Sorry.
Like a chin diaper? Like he's wearing it basically on his chin. Yeah. Like I'd always call it a chin diaper. I'm like, oh yeah, you're doing great there.
Yeah. So, but then he just, he wasn't there anymore, and it's a pretty small house. I feel like I would have, I can't say 100% without a shadow of a doubt that there was no one there, but just knowing her whole routine, knowing everyone there, stuff like that.
And why she'd lie to you about it? She would tell you if somebody was there.
Exactly. And there was no one there, right? And the mask thing threw me off too, So I'm like, if we're talking ghosts here, what was he wearing one in solidarity? Like, what? How does that work?
Yeah, you said that in the book. I could help but laugh a little bit at that.
No. I mean, it's it's a couple of years ago now. I'm sort of getting my head around it, and obviously just put it out there. So I'm definitely going to talk about it. But yeah, and again, it was just one of those things. Didn't know what to do with it. Sort of dismissed it. I thought, well,
right.
Obviously you don't get glitches like that on phones, but I was like, well, I guess it was something weird like that. And then obviously the next day I got the call that she'd passed away from one of the neighbors, and then it just took on a whole new meaning, right? And again, just didn't really. It just sort of played at the back of my mind while I was just going through the shock and all the grief thing. And then at some point somebody brought it up, like that I was talking to, about, well, why don't you ask for a sign? And I was like, well, never really thought of that. This kind of stuff wasn't, despite these few experiences that I'd had over the years, this wasn't like at the forefront of my, sort of my day-to-day life. And I asked for one, and then I got a couple. So I kind of was like, all right, I guess that was a thing, And essentially at the end of the day, I guess, it was someone coming to let me know, which is also frustrating, because if I was in the headspace that I'm at now and I saw something like that, I would have gone straight down there to see it,
Yeah, like you felt like you were getting signs before her passing.
Yeah, like every now
presences.
and again, every couple of years, something would happen personally to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just dismissed that, which is annoying. But it kind of hit me the other day that if that hadn't happened, if I'd never seen that guy, I probably wouldn't have even gone this route. I wouldn't have wrote the book. I wouldn't, I would have just dealt with the grief. And I don't think I would have looked into mediumship. So it's kind of a, I don't want to say bittersweet, but obviously I'd rather my mum was still here. But this whole new thing has just opened up through that experience,
It changes you. I mean, that's the thing. Death is the end, but it's also a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, for the people who go on.
Yeah.
And for you, you went on and changed your life, and started looking deeper into these questions, and you ended up at a spiritual church. All these different things that leave you to where you are now.
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel like I don't think things are predestined. I'm not saying your mom's time was predestined, but I do feel like I have mediums and people who talk about the other side, and we plan our lives and our destinations, and we have soul groups that there are these lessons, and somebody's passing sometimes has to have a meaning for somebody else, a lesson in it, and it's hard. That's a hard concept for people to contemplate.
Yeah, it is. I've come across it here and there, and was that all sort of to send me on this journey? I mean, I don't want to make it all about me. That's kind of the thing that I know. It's like, well, her life wasn't about setting me up or sending me down this direction, and since she's passed, her life has kind of expanded. I see her as not related to me. I sort of see it as a bigger thing now than I did as I was watching her age. But yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, right? Maybe there is some sort of synchronicity to that.
Well, it's connections. It's what I believe is most important about life is these in the moment experiences. We can get into about talking about living in the now, but you know, like your friend who you had that time period in your life, that short time period of life comes to you later, 20 years later in spirit, as spirit, just show you that just in those, you know, to you, it'd been years gone. It's not considering you didn't consider him a friend, but he's out of your mind, out of your life. You don't think about him until that moment. But for him in that time, that moment was precious and important. A connection was made. Just like for your mom, it's not just about her moving you along. You moved her along. You know what I'm saying? You gave her purposes in life and spiritual journey. Like everybody's connected. Everything, I believe, my theory of life, and that I call it the force. I don't know why. And I like the terms, the flow that you have in it too. But that all these things, we're all we're all on the journey together. So we're all connected. Each thing we do for each other is in service to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you're talking about it the right way. I've been talking about it as in a life and death, but if you look at it as a bigger picture, like a soul journey, then that we continue. Then in that sense, my mom's journey, maybe that's just part of her journey, you know.
But your honesty about how you feel about it is that when you're in grief, you can tell people that or try to think of the bigger picture. They're not going to.
Yeah.
Not going to.
Yeah. No, it's a difficult one. And I feel like I just hit the 2-year mark pretty much. And I feel like something's shifted now. You know, for the last 2 years, it's been like this alternate universe that my mum's not here. You know, this person that's been there. And you know, obviously people, you know, have big losses in their life. And we know that chances are that we're going to witness our parents passing. So it's not like any big shocker, right? But still, that person's been there since day one. And it is, you know, if you've got a good relationship with your parents, at least, it's crazy, right? It's like the one true witness to your life that's not taking.
They know you.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's that one person that knows you, that unconditionally loves you.
Yeah.
Most people, you know, a lot of people don't have that. You know, so you have to feel lucky when you do have a parent that has that. I mean, I think more humanity would not be where it is if we didn't have more parents that had that unconditional love for their children. But you know, I don't know how they don't, but there are plenty of parents that don't. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you're lucky to have that connection and that bond. You know, I've had a nightmare more than once of my mom passing in the nightmare. She's still alive with me now, you know, with us, you know, but I've had that nightmare, and how I feel in that moment, in that nightmare, that's about as close as I can relate to you. And it's like I said, I can tell you all the things about she's connected and we're all connected and this all has meaning and purpose. It doesn't matter when it gets down to it, and grief is grief. And she's, no matter what, still a big missing part of your life, and it's that person physically not here now that you can turn to that knows you.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like I was like right at the time, just sort of going off track slightly, but I was working on a movie at the time, and like I was really excited about this movie, like been looking forward to it for 3 months, and then I decided a couple of days, because it started a couple of days after she passed, and I thought, well, I'm just going to get on with it because it'll keep me distracted, and you know, I need the money. Like obviously when someone passes, it gets expensive. And I just kind of went into this thing that ordinarily I would have been geeking out on the set of this thing, right? It was a big Marvel movie. And but I was just kind of like, like, all right, whatever. You know, just like it was odd. But I think about 2 months in that I kind of started coming around and speaking to other people and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just like the world, you know, had lost this, or I think we also, and again, depending on your relationship with your parents, but it was almost like childhood was like completely done now, you know, like any lingering sort of thing that was still there or whatever. It was like, okay, I'm on my own now, you know.
I've seen it happen to many people that have lost their parents. You know, it's like something changes in them. Later, they can be their 60s or 70s, you know, when they lose a parent older than, you know, or they can lose them in their 20s. You see something shift in somebody when a parent is lost, like slightly. You know, you can definitely see it.
It's really one of those things that, you know, you don't know till you know. We all kind of have it, like I said earlier, like on the horizon, probably. But yeah, and you think you kind of, you know, how you're going to react and all that, but at least I didn't, you know, I had no idea.
But I think, like I said, what I cherish from people when they share their stories, and you do share some of these experiences in your book, is that moment afterwards where they do, not everybody gets this, so it's precious when it happens, but when you have that moment of connection with them after they passed. that they show you they're still here. You know, they're still a part of your life. That knowing that we go on is a whole changer for so many people. So many people come here. I've never had anything weird, but I had this one thing, and it'll be that loss of a loved one. They reach out to them from the beyond. So many people I think have this experience, and I think it's one of the most important ones.
Yeah, I'm hoping to hear about more of them. You know, when people are reaching out with after reading the book. Like I've had a couple of friends that have, you know, just the other night actually telling me that around losing their parents, they definitely got signs immediately afterwards, and it seems to be quite common to happen around it. And I suppose a skeptic might be like, well, you're looking for that, you're hoping for that. And I've tried to approach this whole thing. I think like at the start of the book, I was kind of looking at it for a bit more with more of a skeptic attitude, but by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, no, this is real. This whole thing is, you know, I'm a full believer in this. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear other people's stories about this now. Definitely. I'm hoping to sort of meet my, you know, people through this book, and if people want to reach out.
One of the things you went through, and around the same, I mean, for me, I was 18 when it happened to me, but it's the out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
Really interested in that, and especially when you talk about seeing yourself in third person, because I've had that experience too.
I've, again, never heard anyone else talk about this, apart from one person on TV.
Really? See, when I read that in your book, I'm like, I've had other people on this show and talking to people who have had out-of-body experiences, have had some similar experience of seeing themselves, like two selves, not just the person, but their spirit body too. It's like you get it's like, I'm that body I see here, I'm that body, and I'm this, you know, like I'm everything.
Yeah, no, well, that's it. And it makes sense sort of when you look into all this stuff and go into the whole consciousness thing. But for me, it was overwhelming because I was only like mid-teens or something like that. And I tried to actively have this experience. I just read about it in a book. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. Let's try this, like leaving our body thing. And did it like within a few hours of just sort of really concentrating on it. But all of a sudden, as like you just said, as well as having the experience of believing that I rose above my body, right, or consciousness was up here, and I was aware of being up here, and I was aware of being physically still here. All of a sudden I had this view from the side of the room, which just completely threw me off. I was like, okay, what and just kind of snapped me back, you know, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that was too much. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it at that age. And again, sort of wasn't sure about it after, but started sort of questioning it. Did that really happen, or what was that?
Right. Like the memory after so long, it's like, how could that be real? Like,
yeah,
it's like,
was it just like a dream? Was it just some like sort of wishful thinking on my part when I was a kid? But yeah, then I heard somebody else talk about the same thing, and I'd heard plenty of people talk about leaving their bodies, but I'd never heard about the third perspective, you know, which you just said as well, which is fascinating because
I would see it. See, from my experience, it wasn't. I had tried to do some astral projection probably when I was like 13. My cousin and he found his mom's books of like all the mystery books, like you would like a set series, and one of them was out of body. We were trying to do it then, and nothing happened. But this happened to me because me and two other friends encountered something out in the middle of these train tracks, out in the middle of nowhere, an entity that followed us and tormented us for 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And this thing would rip me out of my body. And sometimes I talked about this, and that's why I find it interesting in your book instead of 3D. A lot of times the way I would see it, I would see myself getting like yanked out of my body. I'd see myself down below, but I've also seen myself from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
And I would see this thing, this dark, massive shadow be hovering over my, whatever you want to call a spiritual body. And it would take me and show me things.
Okay.
Things I shouldn't know.
And did you feel that?
Go ahead.
Was it like it didn't feel like a good presence, or did you
no.
feel
It was very sinister, and it basically knew every deep, dark, insecure thing about me. Like all my past, like everything. Yes. And it would show me things. It showed my girlfriend cheating on me, and I found out the scene it showed me was actually something that happened. You know, like my bandmates talking behind my back, they were going to kick me out of the band, and found out that was an actual meeting they had. You know, like it was showing me things that were going on around me, and it just dug into personal past and memories I can't even talk about personally, and it's just too personal.
Yeah.
And it just knew everything. It knew how to push my buttons, and it did this for nights on end, and where I didn't want to sleep.
Yeah. I haven't seen this. This is something that I don't know if I'm being naive about this whole journey that I'm on, but I haven't experienced anything negative through this as of yet. You know, I believe it's possibly all about mindset. When we're that age, obviously we're full of insecurities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I maybe did experience something like that as a kid, but after messing around with like a Ouija board and stuff, but it's hard to sort of go back and put those things in perspective with an adult brain. But yeah, so far, I mean, I've spoke to other mediums and there seem to be sort of divided. Some are like, yeah, no, there's definitely stuff out there that you got to be careful about. Whereas others haven't had any negative experiences. So.
Yeah, I've seen here. I'm doing this show 7 years now. I mean, I've run all different kinds of perspectives on it, and you know, and I'm like, I get it. You've not had anything negative, whatever. But for me, I had encountered something that was attached to actual deaths at this location that was very negative. I didn't know at the time that those deaths happened at this location.
Yeah.
But this was the 90s, you know, and I just started to hear our bell and people talk about shadow people. I'm like, that's my experience, you know, like, and I don't know what it is. I don't call it demonic. I don't like to put a name like that on something. I don't understand what it is. I even described it as alien-like, and I've had some experiences with that extraterrestrial stuff that took place just right before it that I don't know is connected. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered things out there in reality for me. You know, like I don't pretend to know any of the answers to it, but I have ideas, theories, feelings, you know, but what that was, what it tormented me, all I know is that I feel an ancestor, actually a great-grandfather came through and saved me from it one night when this thing levitated me physically up off my bed.
Right.
And I was literally saved when I was like, God, please help me. Couldn't say it out loud. I was paralyzed.
Okay.
But in my mind, I was just like, God, I'm sorry. Help me. And there was this bright light, and this thing was gone.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, I've, like saying I haven't experienced it, you know, recently doing sort of like menial jobs. At one point I was working in like a movie theater and for a few months, and I remember just getting this vibe in one of the screens, just like, okay, no, I don't know, I just don't like it in here. I don't know why. Like, it was no different to any of the other ones, but there was just something about that one that was just like, yeah, no, I don't know. Something feels like it doesn't want me in here, or is enjoying my being uncomfortable in here. I don't know. There was something.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And other people said the same thing about the same spot. You know, we didn't have a problem with the rest of the place, but that one was like, yeah, no.
No, stay out. Yeah. Basically, is the feeling. We had my first apartment was like that. We had a whole room we would stay out of because we had that feeling in that room.
Oh,
yeah. The apartment was really haunted. There's places and energy, and you feel it, you know, that they can be dark or negative. But I think your personal energy, as you get more on your journey, and for me, myself, too, that these things can't touch you so much or get to you. I think that's why a lot of the mediums, like, I've never experienced it because their energy's been pretty consistently at a higher vibration. These things can't touch you. Yeah. That's what I found. When I was 18, I was in a darker place. I was a definitely turmoil 18-year-old, you know, and I asked for it. You know, I asked for trouble. You know, you might have, you got lucky. You had the Ouija board experience. You could have asked for trouble then. You know, it's that age.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, there's so many insecurities like rolling around, and you know, you're not sure. I mean, at the time you think you do, but I guess we're all sort of wary of our friends subconsciously. We don't know who we can trust and this and that, and it's kind of like there's a weird energy surrounding everyone. You know, like just like you're just constantly at the edge of like, I don't know, you know, you don't know what the hell's going on, right?
Well, you had this experience, you know, where you were out of your body and you saw yourself, two selves, you know. It brings you to this idea that I had too at an early in my 20s with my, and it really changed my group dynamic with my friends and stuff, is that we are not the inner voice. We are not the voice that's talking inside our head. We are the observer of that voice.
Yeah.
And it got me on a journey when I was in my 20s of going to like, I'm not this character that my friends think I am. That they think I'm this person. I am not that. I'm not this voice inside my head. I started meditation, right? You get into this and you start to observe that you're not that little inner chatter or that voice. That there's something deeper, more there.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that journey for you?
Yeah, sure. It's kind of, it's interesting because I know I sort of keep repeating myself, but I just want to stress that I'm like right at the start of this journey. So I'm not trying to convince anyone that I've you know, figured this stuff out. But yeah, meditation was something that I learned about some years ago, 10 years ago, when I was training to become a personal trainer. Wasn't thinking about anything spiritual at the time. So I was kind of looking at it more of a practical kind of sense. And then since coming back to it through looking into mediumship, then it's similar thing, but like there's a different reasoning behind it.
Different
and
intent.
yeah, I feel that, you know, always, like you said, when you're a kid, I remember, again, wrote about it in the book, right when I was really young, like 7 or 8, I remember having the sense of just being something else that wasn't this, right? And I remember talking to a friend about it, saying I didn't know how to articulate it, and I was kind of like, I am me, you know what I mean? And he was like, yeah. And I was thinking, no, I don't know what I don't think he does. But it's kind of the same thing. It's almost like I would say, like a backseat driver, you know, that's just constantly there observing. You know, like if you have like a moment of crisis, like you get into an accident or something like that, sometimes you got this kind of inner voice that is just cutting through everything and just being like, yeah, no, this is happening, or do this or don't do this. And it's kind of like that voice of reason there that's always there observing everything. And I feel through meditation, you can connect with that and then start looking at your thoughts and observing your thoughts. And that's when you realize, you know, you're not all this swirl of stuff that's going on constantly, right? It's constantly going on. I mean, I'm not the first person to talk about it, and it's become quite a popular subject lately. Yeah, it is definitely, you know, because it's so weird when you sort of start noticing it. We're just constantly distracted. You know, I'll look at somebody over here and they'll be wearing a red shirt, which will make me think of that other thing in a red shirt, you know, and it'll just open up all these memories and this and that. And it's just nonstop.
The monkey mind.
Yeah, we're just getting bombarded with it like night and day. And yeah, definitely like being able to step back from that for even 5 minutes a day and just observing it, kind of, it opens up this new perspective on who we are.
What's funny, you know, I talk about synchronicities reading your book, and I get this with sometimes guests. I get like, you know, I don't pre-plan out like you're going to be this date and we're going to be covering this. Like I get like synchronicities with guests that end up lining up in the subject matter we're on and things in my life. And I'm reading your book like in this area of your, you know, your thoughts as a kid. And my son comes walking in the room. He's 11. And just out of the blue goes, how does somebody who's been deaf, that's never heard words or sound, think?
Right. Wow.
You know, this thought process, right? He's at 11 years old, and I'm like loving it. I'm like, but are you your thoughts? Do you have to have thoughts to think? Do you have to have words in your mind to think? That's just the chatter you hear in your brain. You are not it. There's something deep down. And I saw his eyes. He's like, well, wait, no, but you can't think without the thoughts. I said, no. Your thoughts are just there in front of you. There's something observing it. That's you. You know, I'm like in the middle of your book, and we're having this deep conversation. He's like, whatever. And it's like, makes my head hurt.
Yeah, but no, that's it. That's it, isn't it? And like, where do we go from there? And then what is that? You know, is that a bit, you know, is that connected? I mean, I believe that's what it is. I believe it's, you know, that's the source, essentially, right? Yeah. You know, that's just kind of watching this whole thing play out, whatever it is, you know.
I love the meditation you have in the book. I think it's one of the first ones where you really focus like on the mountain, the light inside as this observing light. Really beautiful meditation you have in that book.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I took that and I sort of paraphrased. Somebody had given me that meditation when I had this period of that sort of time being non-linear and this kind of whole freak out that I had. Again, like 10 years ago now. And that one really brought me back, you know, it kind of grounded me again. I need to start practicing that more, actually.
You need to ground. I have to do that. I need, you know, I've been trying to do that. I have like an hour break at work sometimes, and I'll go out to my car and I tell people I'm napping, but really what I'm doing is centering myself. I'm not really asleep. I'm in this state of just trying to just observe my thoughts and letting them go. You know, just let them pass and just letting everything pass. And I try to just keep letting them pass until the thoughts just slow down enough where there's barely any thoughts going by and it's just quiet. Because it's also my time in a quiet car. It's hard to do it at home when you get 11 years old. It's late at night, and I'm gonna fall asleep late at night if I try to do it. So my break at work, I get my little like 20-30 minute meditation, and basically is what I do.
That's great. That's great. I mean, you know, I have to make sure that I'll notice a couple of days later, I'll be like, okay, I haven't meditated for like 2 or 3 days, and just make myself get back on it. And I can definitely notice a difference when I'm keeping it up consistently with everything, and especially with the whole going back to the mediumship thing. Yeah, you know, other stuff takes over, of course. You know, we've got to pay bills and we have to go to work and all that stuff. But yeah, I definitely notice a benefit of doing a regular meditation practice, even if it's only.
So I say, I love in the book you go, you know, you get into that, you know, you still struggle like everybody else does. You still have to worry about bills and all this stuff. Because I remember when I was in my 20s, I really started getting meditation, really getting spiritual, and thinking about all really deep thoughts and all this stuff. And it'd be like, why doesn't everybody else? You know, it's because everybody else is grown up, buddy. Grow up. You got bills to pay. Now I got kids to worry about and take care of. You know, life has a way of getting in the way of this. You know, so you do have to like take the time to try to do it, and it's not easy.
And it does kind of make you realize how ridiculous this whole thing is, this whole setup that we've got. And I won't go into all that. That's too early in the morning for me here. But,
it's late at night for me. So, well, I've been haunted by my grandfather, who I wasn't as close to as my mom's side of the family, because it was my dad's, who my dad took off and never heard from him again. So it wasn't very close. But my biological father's father, my grandfather, he had dementia for the ends of his years of his life, and his last 2 years he never spoke. But the last day of hours before he passed, he finally spoke, and he said, "Life's a joke."
Wow! And
he passed a couple hours, and that's haunted me. Like, what did he see? You know, before the end, they made him say, "Life's a joke," and laugh after not speaking for 2 years. It's kind of haunted me. You know.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect. It's kind of cool as well. Like, I mean, yeah.
Maybe it is just life's a joke. Don't take it so seriously. You know, I don't know. You know, like maybe find out in the end that, you know, all is forgiven. That my experience when I was saved was my God moment, like of believing in a higher power when I was saved from the shadow person, because I felt an energy I've only felt twice in my life, that time and another, of this force. And that's why, like I see, I've really connected to Star Wars, the idea of the force, this energy of just complete unconditional compassion for you as a human, as a spirit, that no matter what you've done, no matter what you'll do, I'm there and I forgive you of everything. I understand. It's like knowing your mother is there to give you a hug. You know, it's like, it's this unconditional love.
Yeah.
Like only like a parent could understand. It's the closest thing I could come to understanding. And I felt this immense power. It made me melt away all my insecurities in that moment and fears. All the fear of being terrorized by this entity was gone. My hatred, even inner deep, for what this entity was doing to me was gone. My hatred for that entity was gone. Like, you know, it's like just complete compassion for everything in that moment. And I've tried to meditate and reach that state or feel that energy, and you know, a little bit. But to me, that there's something powerful about that energy, that compassion. I feel like that is the ultimate state. Love, compassion. That's what we're trying to attain. Yeah, that's it. And when you feel that, and I felt that, and it's often fleeting. And then, you know, trying to find it again is kind of like the you know, the counterbalance to it, and then you isn't it?
Right? It just kind of, it's just when you're not trying that you get to that. Obviously, you know,
do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. I talk about it in the book as well. Like I call it like the slipstream superhighway that's kind of running alongside you all the time, and you kind of have to jump on, but you know, you sort of have to tune in to get it right. And it's like
flow.
It's just waiting. Yeah, exactly. The flow. And we experience that, right? When we're, you know, if you're doing something artistic or maybe even sports or something like that, that you just kind of get into this state where everything runs smoothly. And I feel that life often has that moment as well. And again, it's kind of when you like accept, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole manifestation secret thing and stuff like that. But
have you read The Secret? Have you read The Secret, Phil? Have you read The Secret, Phil? Have you read The Secret? Do you remember all the people asking you that back in the day? Oh my God, drove me nuts. No, I don't want to read The Secret. Just get the goddamn, take your secret and shove it. I've heard enough about the damn secret.
Yeah, but I think there's something to it. You know, the fundamental thing that, like, when you get into that flow state, that things do tend to work, not, you know, supernaturally almost, and then when you notice it, then it stops, you know.
From what I read of The Secret, eventually pushed into reading it and watching the documentaries, that, like, I feel like it touches the surface.
Yeah.
Of the of where you're just starting at, where I'm starting at, you know, but it doesn't deep dive into it.
No, it's just kind of like a fast track, like vision board on the fridge thing. It's like, it's great. It's a great idea, and it's a good start, I think. But yeah, it's like, like the cliche, the Ferrari's not going to show up in the driveway because you're, posting pictures of it somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, I'll get all the billion pictures of Ferraris. I guarantee I'm not going to have one show up in my driveway ever. Yeah. As much as I could will it or want it, it ain't going to happen.
That's it. But yeah, I suppose it's just, creating the mindset, and then you've got to actually take the steps to get there, right? But
But I that's the thing. The secret is it's the epitome of the American like Western way of taking something spiritually and commercializing it and packaging it as like, you can have a Ferrari now, America. Like.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but no, I mean, if it works for people, if it keeps them focused and stuff like that, why not?
Maybe not focus on the big material Ferrari items.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Maybe focus on your inner spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And, I always love the stories. I don't know if you're familiar with the Edgar Cayce.
I'm not sure.
He was a sleeping prophet in the U.S. in the early, 1930s, and he passed in 44, I think.
Yeah.
And he passed in the 40s, but he would literally go into a trance state, not remember anything he would say, but this thing, super consciousness would come through and communicate. Cures for people's diseases and all kinds of stuff. And Edgar Cayce in his everyday life is a very Christian, humble person.
Was this the guy that got the doctor coming through?
He would get a consciousness that would come through that would know how to heal people. I wouldn't say it was a doctor per se.
Right.
It's like he was tapping into something, the collective unconscious, the Akashic records, a lot of things. Like he knew stuff about ancient civilizations. I mean, he knew cures for cancer before they were ever discovered. He really was, there was something special about him. But, I always loved his everybody talks about his sleeping prophet abilities, but his everyday life, his wife, and they would struggle financially all the time. But he never cared. Like, he would go and buy a new fishing pole, and his wife, like, we got to pay bills. He's like, the money's coming. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And then they'd somehow get a check in the mail, and it'd be through. That's just how he lived his life. He didn't stress about it. Didn't stress about their finances or anything. He just went about his life, Yeah, and I just thought there was something, this guy had this ability, and he was a very humble person. And, I mean, a lot of the stuff, the information would come through these trance states was contradictory to his Christian beliefs.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I found this book my mom had on her shelf, The Sleeping Prophet. So, Edgar Cayce influenced me big time about the ideas of consciousness and its capabilities.
I have to look into that.
Yeah, look into Edgar Cayce.
Yeah, like when you get into that mindset of like, no, it's going to be fine. It tends to be fine. I find that, or that you kind of have your mind set on that, and you're like, okay, there's no other alternative. That thing is the way I'm going, or that job's for me, or something like that. And I feel that 9 times out of 10, it tends to work out when you get into that flow state, right?
Yeah, exactly. We got to go to commercial break. We'll continue. We're going to open up the phone lines to the audience. You want to call in tonight, join this conversation, ask the questions of our guest, Phill Webster, author of Letting Glow, A Guide to Intuition, Spirituality, and Living Consciously. When we come back from the short commercial break.
Effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts, Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBlandOO or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Phill Webster. He's the author of Letting Glow, a guide to intuition, spirituality, and living consciously. He's telling you he's on the beginning of his journey, kind of just developing mediumship abilities. His book has been, I'm in like 20 chapters in, I'm loving it. There's a lot of great meditation guides in this book if you're looking at starting out. getting back into meditation, I think this book would be great. He has a lot of really good guided meditations for you in there, but it's just his life experiences I much connect with. Very much so, because I've had a lot of the same similar experiences as he has had. And I think a lot of other people have too. We don't figure this out until we all start talking about it. And, Phill really opens himself up in this book, and he's very honest. And I love that about it. So it's called Letting Glow. Check it out. You can get it on Amazon. I'll make sure he gets out any other website he has information later in the show. But the phone lines are now open. If you want to call in, join this conversation. Do you know, are you the voice inside your head? Think. If you're still here, you took the red pill. Time to start thinking deeply. Who are you? Are you more than just that little voice inside your head that keeps chattering away, the monkey mind? You are. I think a lot of you have had that experience, that moment of clarity when you feel you're that observer, that inner light, that thing that watches and listens to that inner voice. You're not the voice, right? Call in, join us. Deep Thoughts by Jason Bland or Jack Handy, whatever. Tonight on Paranormal Soup. We got a lot to get to, so let's get back to our guest. Thank you for continuing with me, Phill, early in the morning for you there across the pond.
No worries. Yeah, it's getting on 5:30 here.
So like I said, I'm enjoying the book. I like a lot of your visual guided meditations you have through it that you kind of put throughout the book, through the journey you're going through. And the deep thoughts. You keep saying you're on the beginning of this journey, kind of that you're just learning a lot of this. Tapping into your abilities and that. For a lot of my listeners here and watchers, some of them have their own abilities. Some of them astral project, and some of them have mediumship abilities. All of us, I think, are like we're touching on of these abilities. Like for myself, I have things I get knowledge of. Sometimes I don't understand. I don't know why. I don't know how to control. I'm saying like I can the holding the picture. I haven't done that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. For people at the beginning of this journey, they want to start developing these abilities. What's some advice you have for them?
I mean, straight off what we've been talking about, I'd say that meditation is the key. Yeah, definitely, to be able to recognize that if you're looking to get into mediumship, and again, just want to stress, because I'm going to upset a lot of traditional spiritualists and stuff like that, which I don't want to do. But at least what's been working for me is, again, that meditation, being able to step back from your thoughts. And then when something else comes in, you recognize it as not you, right? It's because you're used to looking back at just being over here and looking at all this, hectic thoughts and stuff that are going on. And then all of a sudden something else comes in and you're like, all right, okay, that wasn't me for sure. That was from wherever, and I've tested that. Like I've asked questions and Googled them afterwards, Googled the answers afterwards, and there's no way I knew that. It's
like the inner voice I heard when I was getting this information sounds like my inner voice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it was like a quiet one.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's easy, I think, in the early days. I mean, I've been doing this only for 2 years now, and I think that I've met some amazing mediums, and like some of the best mediums in the world told me that they didn't even give a reading until 7 years into their training. Yeah. So I'm very much at the start again, but yeah, I can recognize that I'm starting to know that, okay, yeah, that's not me. And specifically when it's stuff comes in that I have no idea about. And I've had that same experience as you. One of the first experiences I had in a circle was just holding a lady's, just gave me an object. She gave me a purse. I didn't know whose purse it was, stuff like that. And immediately I saw a picture of my mum wearing like a headset, where she used to work for like a, like as an operator, like on the switchboard and all that kind of thing in the 60s, 70s. And I thought, okay, that's me. That's nothing to do with this lady that I'm, trying to give a reading for. And I kind of just didn't bring it up. And later on we were chatting and I said, oh yeah, I saw a picture of my mum wearing a headset. And it turned out it was her mum's purse. That was her mum's job. So, I should have just trusted it and gone with it. And also find that with that, the mediumship or as a developing medium, it's usually the first thing that comes in.
Yes.
It's like the first thought, like just go with that. Even if it sounds ridiculous, that's probably what you're connecting with.
My friend Katrina Cooper is a medium we've had on, and she'll be on the show, I believe, back again, her and Rhodey will be on in June. She's done incredible readings live on this show, and she's always, I've had people say, I don't know about this. She goes, well, that's what I'm going with. Because Katrina taught me a long time ago, because she says, I got this ability, I should do it, but it's you go with the first thing and you stick with it. Maybe you're wrong, I don't know, but that's how you do it. It's really going to be that first image. And a lot of times, I also find it interesting, I've heard mediums talk about this, is like the way the information came to you there is you saw a picture of your mom with a headset. You didn't get somebody saying, oh, hey, she worked at this and this. No, you get a picture, you get something visual. Because I don't know about you, the moments I've had, like where I felt like meditation or I've connected with spirit, they don't come through to you talking.
Yeah,
they come through to you with images and feelings and knowings. You know, like just straight, just a knowing.
Yeah, from what I've understood, like a traditional spiritualist that might have learned this, you know, from sort of generations, we'll talk about the clairs, you know, clairaudience, clairtangents, and all that, and kind of like stick with the one that works for you. I haven't personally really, and again, I don't want to upset any traditionalists, but I haven't really stuck with that. I've been like, well, if it comes through, it comes through. Yeah, I mean, I tend to get, everything seems to be very visual. I don't particularly really hear voices or anything like that, but I'll see an image, and it's normally something related to my own memory that I kind of have to connect the dots when I've been practicing with someone, you know, that then they'll sort of make sense of it for me, you know. Like, for example, I was, again, at one of these practicing circles, I was with a young lady, and I saw like a place called the Fisherman's Cottage, right, where I grew up. It was like a pub on a beach, and I was thinking, okay, what's that? And I was like, okay, fisherman, I don't know. Anyway, it turned out this whole sort of line of thing that I got was, you know, her granddad, who was a fisherman, and all that kind of thing, you know. So they sort of give you stuff that you know, that then you sort of kind of got to figure it out how it relates to that person.
It's like they have to use your own memories.
Yeah, exactly.
To communicate with you. It's like they can't.
That's it.
Yeah, it's like they can't just show you. I mean, sometimes I think you do. You get images or stuff that's no image you've had in your mind before, but I think in general it seems like they have to use like pieces of your mind to communicate. Like, oh, here's a memory of this. This is what I'm trying to get across here. I'll use this memory.
Yeah, that's how it seems to be working out for me so far.
Yeah.
And
you and a lot of mediums, I think.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I've read like and you know, through the workshops and courses I've done and stuff like that, people talk about having like a diary, like a symbol diary. I haven't done that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so if a rose represents romance to you or something like that, then when you see a rose, then that's gonna, you know, say that there's something to do with that on the cards for someone.
I'd be afraid if I made like a symbol diary like that, that next thing you know, I'm just gonna keep seeing roses in my mind or something, you know, like it's gonna influence me wrong or something. But I get that, like the mediums you've seen, like John Edwards, like you'll get the rose and it means this, or a white rose means this, or you know, like they do use like symbols to help communicate faster. I get that. Yeah, we got a phone call on the line. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, so I just have one question, and I'll actually share one meditation experience that I had.
Awesome.
If it's okay with me sharing that.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, it's very nice to meet you, sir.
Hey, you too. Pleased to meet you.
So my question to you, in all the meditations that you've done so far on your journey, what is one that sticks out to you that you found to be very profound, and what was the results that came as a result of that experience?
That's interesting. Well, I think the most profound ones have been when I've actively tried to connect with my spirit guides, and then had information that has come through that I haven't known about, that I've gotten into a state of meditation and asked a question and said, okay, can you give me this? Let's just keep this going. I want to, you know, don't want to doubt this. I need some evidence, and almost tested them, right? And then stuff's come through, and then I've looked it up afterwards, and it's like, okay, there's no way I knew that, and it's all been correct. You know, that I think that those are the standout ones for me. Sort of personal meditation without the whole mediumship thing. Yeah. I think it's just, you know, it's just been beneficial in general, just to sort of quiet the mind and sort of set me up for the day.
Okay. All right. So I had a recent meditative experience. I have not shared this before. So as many people know, my mother recently passed away from cancer.
Oh, sorry.
And it was on the night that she passed. I remember I was out in my patio. Now, whenever I do meditate, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I do like to enjoy a cigar when I'm meditating because it helps me to get into that relaxed state. And I put on some headphones so that way I just block out any kind of noise. And I very rarely ever smoke in the patio, but then I'm like, well, my mom is passing away soon. I don't really think she'll care. So anyway, I go into this clear state. I'm puffing on my cigar, just relaxed. Then I feel a breeze come in, and I feel like somebody was grabbing onto my right arm. Lasted for about 10 seconds before I finally dissipated. And I woke up out of that state, and I see my father coming up to the door. And when I see it, I take out my headphones, and that's when he finally tells me that my mother had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually the first time that I'm sharing this openly. But that would have to be probably the most profound meditative experience that I have personally ever had. And I just wanted to share that. And Phil, if you have some insight into that, I definitely would greatly appreciate any kind of input.
Well, I would absolutely say go. I would take that as your mom, like 100%, and go with the first feeling that you had. What you thought it was. I'm assuming that you think that it was your mom, right?
Personally, for me, yes.
Yeah. I would definitely go with that. I've had similar experiences now. Now you've kind of refreshed my memory. When I first started meditating, I was sitting on a bench in a field, like in a woodland, and immediately got this like sense of her perfume, and it wasn't a real smell. It wasn't like a physical smell that sort of drifted by, but it was like it wasn't a memory, but it was there. Again, just kind of, you can't put it.
Oh, I know.
There's no sort of explanation for it, but when you know, right? And I would say the same thing for you. I would definitely go with that, and absolutely take comfort in that. Yeah.
Well, that is all. That's all the questions and my experience that I wanted to share. Thank you so much, Phil, for answering my question and hearing my experience. I greatly appreciate it. I love hearing everything that you're saying, man, and I'm wishing you nothing but love and light over on your journey.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach, so much for sharing with us that tonight.
Absolutely, everybody. Have a good night, all right?
You too. It's like I know I've felt my grandmother around, and it's a weird sensation because I can smell her. She had a scent, you know what I'm saying? People different. I can smell what my grandmother would smell like around me, but I know I'm not physically smelling it.
Yeah. I've had that.
But
often.
I can, right? And it's like how I know she's around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a strange. I'm still figuring this stuff out as well. But again, when in those instances, it's real. It's happening, and like Zach was just saying, like I would definitely take that as that was his mom. Just checking in. Definitely.
Then you said something I've said to people before when they've called in with these kind of situations, like, well, what does your gut tell you that was?
Yeah.
And they go with it.
Yeah, and you go with it before everything starts coming in and clouding and questioning. And again, I know I'm like a broken record, but before, when you can step back from that, that's when you get better at it, and recognizing these signs when they come in rather than just instantly, because your brain will step in instantly and be like, okay, no, that couldn't have happened.
Why do you think the monkey mind, the ego, does this? Like to try to always stop us from slowing down and observing that we are not that.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? Right? If this is what we're supposed to connect with, why are we constantly fighting against it? Like, why are we programmed to fight against it? I get that too. Yeah, you know, like, what's the point? Are we so, you know, this embodied experience? If you talk of it like that, you know, like, what's the point? Why have we forgotten this whole thing, or what's the reasoning behind that for us to have this physical experience? If that is a real thing, why isn't everybody tuning into it? Right. I don't know. Yeah.
You make me think about it deeply again. These thoughts I've had over the years, and I was thinking about it a lot reading your book, and that's why I like your book, because it gets people into the state of mind. It's not like you're giving people the answers to anything; you're getting them to ask the questions, you know, and to think about this stuff. And that's what your book's doing for me. Just thinking about these things I've thought about. It's like, is that monkey mind, that ego, that thing that, you know, the personality we think is us, but it isn't. You know, we're the observer, this inner light. Is it just the biological thing we have interacted with spiritually, like survival? Like it's survival. You mentioned this in the book. Like, is it doing it as
survival, right?
Right. You know, like it. You know, we're just the mirror of it. I don't know. It's deep thoughts. Deep thoughts. We got another caller, another friend of mine, Dan. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Good. How are you? Jason?
Good. Thanks for calling in.
And Bill, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Dan. Pleased to meet you.
Yeah. I was kind of hesitating on calling but listening to you and Jason talk, some things started to sound awfully familiar to me. I guess little over a year now, I've been trying to meditate, to give myself 2 hours a day meditating, and the results have been strange, but it's difficult to explain this. It really is. But as I had a traumatic event happen, so I mean, I suffer from PTSD now. So what this has done, it's brought other memories from my past kind of back around to me that I've either forgotten or put aside, you know, they were paranormal, strange stuff. And it feels like that kind of numbed me to what's happening now, if that makes sense. It kind of put me in the position to accept something a little stranger, I guess. And I've been trying to unconvince myself, but yeah, the meditations
the monkey mind.
really intense. Usually every time there's a bright golden light on my right side, and it moves in a way that's like it's out of sequence, like the frame rate doesn't match up with it. It feels like an energy, and I can never look at it because it just won't allow it to be seen. But eventually what it does, it totally brightens up my vision. It just ignites it on fire. And that's when you get things. And it's not like I can control it. But like I'll see rooms, like unfamiliar houses, or I'll see, I don't know, like beings or structures, I guess. It's weird. I say I've been doing it a year, so it was like Zach said, you know, I start by listening to music, calm myself down from the day, because with PTSD, you have some bad days.
Yeah. And
some better days. So I usually, you know, turn up my death metal, calm down. Anger for anger.
I don't know how death metal calms people down, but somehow it does. It does. Some people it does. Not me, but
it's just an anger thing. I think it just helps release that a little bit, is what I've gathered. You know, and then eventually I'll just dip into it, and every time it's always this slowly emerging golden light that just escalates brighter, and it's usually visual. It's either full color grayscale or sepia scale. And I don't know what the deal is with that, but I mean, it's weird how it happens. It's almost like a portal that opens that you see. It's either an image or like a video playing. And like you guys were talking about with symbology, I get a lot of symbology in there too. I've had a lot of crosses, a lot of triangles. And Jason, I heard you saying you wake up seeing blue sparkles sometimes.
I did during one experience, but I've seen the blue sparkles other times, not just waking up. But it was really intense that one time that I felt I was getting this download of information.
And I told you, Jason, about the beings that I encountered, and that was similar.
You have some amazing artwork too. You have some amazing artwork you've done from these experiences.
Yeah, I try to jot something down every time something important comes along. Or
what's your main question
write it down
for Phill about these experiences? What do you want to know from Phill on what you've been experiencing, what you've been describing them?
Well, I was wanting to know, like you say, I kind of get the impression that this light is some kind of guide or something. I just get that impression. And I heard you say you had guides that you run into every now and then.
Yeah, I would.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, just from what you said there, I was just getting that. Yeah, immediately guides with the light, and obviously I can't say for sure, but I would take that as that. And then interesting about the colors and seeing things in black and white. We might be talking past life, you know. So I know that sounds kind of out there, but maybe that's a way.
Not on this show.
But that's a way of, it could be. Again, I don't want to try and interpret it for you. You know, I think these things are very personal to us, and no one should tell you what's what. You know, you should definitely, and especially if we are talking spirit guides, nobody should sort of be like, okay, well, that guy's whoever, but perhaps that's a way of indicating that it is from. I would take that personally as okay, maybe that's black and white. To me, would be that's previous to this, or just at a guess, you know. But I would definitely go with guides. Yeah, coming in on one side, and it sounds like it's a very loving presence coming in like a golden light. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I've been looking for somebody to kind of talk to about it because it's just progressively getting a little, I don't know, a little more crazier, I guess.
And more intense.
And it kind of brings out.
I think you're doing the right thing. Like we were just talking earlier about noting things down, especially with the symbols. If they keep coming up, but definitely take a note of them and just sort of see if there's a pattern to that and what those symbols sort of represent to you. And maybe what you can get from that. And I don't know, it's all pretty cryptic. Usually these things tend to come through like that. But then with hindsight, you know, sometimes you can sort of see the pattern to it. Definitely start taking notes. I think you're doing the right thing there.
Yeah, look into the meaning. Yeah. What do the symbols mean to you, and what do they mean in in general to society? And maybe they're trying to give you messages with the symbol because they can't just totally directly speak to you. Like as what we've experienced is a lot of times it's through visualizations and knowings that you get this information.
I'm still getting a lot of the 1s and 3s out in the real world. Like you just happen to be at the right time to, see a bunch of 11s or 3s or both, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And there's numerological reasons to 1s and 3s, I'm sure. I'm not a numerologist.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of theories that I don't know what to say is true, but
people are talking
like you said,
about
trust
that
your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely just go with your instinct. I would say, what's the first thing that comes up? I'm sorry, I'm kind of repeating myself with this, but I would as I'm learning, I would say the first impression that comes to you, most likely the right one, especially if you're in meditation, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I will do that. I'll continue to meditate.
Yeah, and like you said, keep taking the notes and go with your first instinct of what you're experiencing, what you feel is probably going to be your biggest clue to what you're encountering, what you're dealing with. Might not give you the total answers, but it'll lead you down the right path, maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Nice to talk with you.
Good night, guys.
You know, it's the thing that I think there's a lot of people having encounters either with loved ones who've passed on or spiritual encounters like Dan is with something higher or higher consciousness is trying to reach out to them. It's just some people are opening up to this and it's a private individual experience, but us sharing them, you know, we're all kind of sharing notes, you know, we're sharing these experiences to get a bigger picture of it. We mentioned, you know, past lives. Like I said, that's nothing unusual on this show to talk about. I've had mine. I've had two very vivid dream experiences I woke up from that I was for sure were past life experiences. And they changed my whole perspective, especially on the idea of who I am as like the ego. Because in one past life, I was a little black girl. In another, I was a Buddhist monk. You know, I was in those experiences. I was those people.
Yeah, yeah.
I could see myself through their eyes and 3D again. I could see both. It's like at the same time I could feel and experiencing everything this little girl's experiencing. I am her, and at the same time I can see it outside of her. Like it's two experiences all happening at once. It's the brain has trouble translating that. You know, I think from our normal 3D experience. Yeah, definitely. But both those dreams were so vivid and so emotionally impactful that I still remember them. I still can see them in my mind.
Yeah. That's something I would like to go into next. To be honest with you, I'm considering writing another book along the lines of letting glow. Past lives is something that I'd definitely like to look more into. Like you said, when I was a kid, I used to get flat, and it's always that same state, going to sleep or waking up, and you know it's not a dream. It's just kind of
right. In
that half state. I would always see a family, like just this family, like vividly, just they were like having a picnic or something. I don't know, that it would be like repetitive, and it wasn't a dream. It's open to interpretation, but past lives is something that I'd like to go into.
Yeah, I mean, we've had guests on here. We've had people that do the regression, and you know, I've had Chris Lee on here who does regression on it to basically eliminate ailments, like that he believes a lot of times not everything, but a lot of ailments people have are connected to past lives, and by like taking you on a hypnotic regression and seeing it will help eliminate or lessen those ailments. I've had some experience with that. With him doing that to me, I was regressed, but it's nothing compared to. You should try it. You definitely should. Yeah. Chris, I can always get in contact with a number of different people on that, but it's nothing compared to the two vivid experiences I feel like spiritual gifts that were given to me, but my guides or whatever decided to show me these two different experiences in a dream. And they both explain why I'm wired the way I am, and there was a knowing, like I said, like I could see things 3D. There was also knowing about why I'm seeing this, even though like the person in one of these dreams that's a family, you know, like is my father in this past life is my biological father now, that didn't want anything to do with me, and it's connected to this past. Like all this was like just an instant knowing. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, that's fascinating as well. If you could, that you've hung on to that, and you know that you've taken something from that. Yeah, I'd love that. I definitely want to look into past life regression at some point.
I mean, in a sense, I mean, you might be getting some of it now. I mean, you might be getting it when you go into these meditations. Because for me, this happened when I was doing a lot of deep meditations. It might happen to you if you ask for it. That's what I've told people. Hold on, I'm trying to get a call. Sometimes my phone lines like to hang up. Who just tried calling? If it hangs up on you, I might try calling you guys back. I'm going to try doing that now. Somebody just called. Incoming call, ringing. I don't know if it's calling the right person. Let's see. Sometimes my phone lines act weird. Let's see. Do we get them?
Hello?
Hello. You're on Paranormal Soup.
Okay. It's Heather.
Hey, Heather, thanks for calling. It hung up on you, but I was like trying to answer it, so that's why I called you back. So thank you for calling in.
I want to know what his intake is, back to the outer body experience. Because I told you guys my experience before and everything. I'll just kind of briefly tell him a little bit about it. But I've talked to other people that had outer body experiences, and they've never heard of my situation before. So I was just wanting to know what his intake would be on it. So my best friend in high school, he got into a drunk driving accident, and I was asleep. I heard him call out my name, and I left my body, and I was physically in his cab of his truck, but I couldn't do anything to stop the accident from happening. When I woke up, I had every symptom of being in that truck car crash and everything. And the following morning, at the exact same time he died at the hospital, I actually literally died at work. And I was just wondering what your intake would be on that inner outer body experience that I had.
When you say you died at work, you mean you physically, something happened at work, or?
I was starting to feel nauseated and sick. I was heading to the bathroom, and I had just went around the corner, and right at 7:34 in the morning, it was like my heart exploded and the lights went out. And when I came to, the paramedics were there. They did the flat thing or whatever it is to revive me and everything. And I found out later at his funeral that he had died that exact moment.
Wow. I mean, that's initially.
But he was at the hospital.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like a shared death experience to the next level, right? I've heard of shared death experience.
I'm sorry?
Nobody actually
shared death experience.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. Yeah.
Have you heard of that term?
No.
So a lot of times people talk, and I believe I've experienced this myself, is the moment of somebody passing that you go through what they go through as they pass to the other side. What you're talking about sounds similar, but like extremely different, especially with the going through a physical death yourself. But yeah, that is quite out of my what I've learned about so far. But yeah, the closest I can come to it is a shared death experience that he was somehow connected to you. I don't want to reach, I don't want to go into talk about the whole past life, connections and things like that. But yeah, that opens up a lot. That opens up a lot of questions.
Okay, I just did because I had asked other people that said that they had out-of-body experiences, but they had never experienced that. So that's the reason why.
Yours something, with yours being like connected like that, like you called it, a shared death experience is a rare phenomenon, but people have it. A lot of times parents of children or vice versa. For people very close to each other, yours, you guys obviously had some kind of soul connection, something deep.
Yeah. Everybody always said that we were like soulmates.
Yeah.
Even though we had made a pact that we were never going to further anything but friendship, but
love's love. It doesn't have to be a physical relationship or anything like that. You can be very close to people, like that. And the connection you guys obviously had was so strong it defied space and time, and you were with him in his final moments, and it's almost beautiful in a sense is that he wasn't alone. That you're with him.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that was the only question I had.
Well, thank you Thank you for calling in on that,
Mhm.
Heather. I mean, I know you've shared it before, but I always love it when you get to share these experiences with different guests and get their perspective on it. And yeah, I never thought about saying to you a shared death experience. I've heard of that term, but that's totally, yeah. I think about that's really what you went through with that person. That's a rare phenomenon, and again, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yep. You guys have a good night.
You too, Heather.
Bye.
Bye. It's just so we have guests on too. I mean, shared death experience. I had a guest on that had that too, and I've had guests on that have had near death experience. Have always fascinated me because they're like I don't know if you feel about it, but like a brief window on what maybe be on the other side. And you hear people say you talk about the third body experience. Well, a lot of people have at least the out of body experience and the death experience. And what I always found interesting is when somebody describes having a near death experience where they're taken out of their body the moment before the accident. Like they watched their body get broken. They're totally detached and separated from it.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot, and especially through mediums when they brought people through. That seems to be, and then when you look up near-death experiences, the similarities are so striking that this can't all just can't not be a thing. But yeah, apparently I've heard that a lot, that people get detached before they have to go through the actual pain, and I feel that can be comforting to those of us that get left behind, to know that apparently that the person doesn't go through the severity of whatever's happening to them, that they're already at some conscious level detached from it,
and that they're not alone, because you hear from these people that had the near-death experiences that there's a guide or somebody there. They have these experiences of loved ones come in and say it's not your time and go back, or that you're not alone. You're not alone, and you're not going to go through the pain or agony of the actual demise. It's that why I like those experiences like that, because of that energy that I felt, that complete compassion and love and understanding, like I have your back, and knowing that, like it was just an instant knowing and acceptance of it in that moment. And that's go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one thing that I find interesting with people talking about near-death experiences and seeing family members and stuff like that. No one's ever talking about seeing people that are alive. It's always someone that passed, like every time, right? So just for any kind of argument around that, it's always somebody that's on, that's passed on already that shows up.
I have to say there are some stuff we've come up on the show about people seeing somebody who is like astral projecting in their sleep. There are some cases of that, living haunted. But there's that's a whole other topic. We do have another caller. We got Adrian on the phone. How you doing tonight, Adrian?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Jason. Hi, Phil. I wanted to give some insight to the second to last caller, the one who meditates
Dan?
2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, when he was saying he was seeing that bright light on the right side of his, inner mind, that's a natural release, to the best of my knowledge, because I've experienced this and I've had somebody tell me what it was. It's a natural release of DMT.
Ooh,
Which makes sense, because if he is healing, this is going to help him. People seek that out through the ayahuasca, but you can also do it yourself through meditation.
Yes.
That, along with the geometric shapes, I had that happen, and now he's in a place where he can receive knowledge. And if he's seeing colors, I've had that all at the same time with this bright light. I've never seen such brightness with my eyes closed before on the right side.
Yeah.
And it would be, if I had to describe it. So now I think he's at a stage where he can get answers if he knows how to ask.
It's really interesting, because me and Dan talk about this stuff, and he emails me some of his experiences, and we play Star Wars Squadrons online together, and we talk about this stuff some nights. And when he talks about his experiences, I'm not going to say the stuff that he's experienced. That's for Dan to do. But just thinking about what he's talked to me about does remind me a lot of people's DMT experiences that I've heard. So that's interesting you say that.
And he says it's helping. It's helping. So perhaps now he has he can go look up a resource to investigate further on that.
I don't think he should do DMT. I think he's naturally doing it.
No. He's right. Now he can look up where he should take it from there in his meditations, now that he's achieved that. It's almost like you go through stages of opening your kundalini, and you get to a certain point, and you're there. Now he's done that through meditation.
Yeah.
He's achieved something.
He's doing a lot more. He just commented. He goes, "It's so bright." Yeah, and it's I didn't know that about DMT, but you said about the bright light, that they're seeing on the right side as an effect. That's interesting, and like it is something that people say you can do naturally.
I didn't know that until I had someone tell me what it was I was experiencing, and that was through deep hypnotic meditation.
Yeah.
So,
2 hours a day is a lot more than I've been putting into meditation. So kudos to Dan. He's getting into the deep areas of the mind, I think.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm glad he's taking notes because it's going to be important.
Yeah.
In the future, it's going to put some pieces of the puzzle together, and I hope he has more to tell in the near future.
Well, thank you for calling in with that, Adrian. Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome.
This is exactly why This is exactly why we do the show. We got to share experiences to figure it out. Here's somebody else's experiences, sharing it with Dan, so he can have a better understanding of what he's experiencing. It's like we have to have these open forums. That's the nice thing about technology, internet. We can do the show. You be across the pond at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, nighttime, midnight here. But we get to share these experiences, and that's what I like about your book. Is you're having an honest. You're telling people honestly about your experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not trying to pretend that I know any more than I know. Well, that being said, since writing the first book, I felt that I'm further along than I was from what I explain in the book. But yeah, again, just starting out, and hopefully, the reader can take the journey with me, and we can learn together.
You're a better man than me, because I've had Gavin and others tell me, you need to write a book about all these weird experiences you've had, and I can't get myself to do it. I've written some of them out. Like one of my shadow person experiences in Mike Ricksecker's Volume 2, Paranormal Encounters, or Ghostly Encounters, but Paranormal Encounters. I've written out like my green floating head in Gavin's magazine. I had my first real memory of a paranormal experience of seeing a green floating head with my cousin Phill. We both saw it. We were like 5 years old. But we both remember it. All these weird. I've had a lot of weird experiences, and I've had people tell me, "Here, write these out, write it in a book." But the reason I haven't is it's like I'm still figuring things out, and I have to say, you kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit by reading your book. Is that you're still figuring things out, but you still went in and started writing a book. So it's like, see, I have no excuse.
Yeah, no, I just felt like, okay, it just started pouring out, and it was somewhat cathartic as well, dealing with grief and sort of putting that all in there. Now I've just got this anxiety of it actually coming out and what people might think. But yeah, again, I just what can I do? I can just only share what I've experienced, and people can and hopefully take some comfort from it through grief and through, maybe having these experiences and not knowing what to do with them or wondering what they were. Yeah,
and I think a lot of people are going through grief or having paranormal experiences, and they can't talk to anybody about it because they don't want to get judged or get that look of like, ooh, take your meds, or it's just grief, or all those stupid things. Like people judge it.
Yeah, people have good intentions around grief, and friends will sort of tell you to move on after like 2 months. It's like it's 2 months, and again, until you go through it. It takes a long time, right? And it's just, I feel that for me, again, like something at the 2-year mark has suddenly shifted slightly, and I feel like a semblance of what I was before going through that whole thing. And it's a long journey, and it really takes it out of you.
Yeah, but I think what helps, what you do and what others like us are trying to discover and learn is this connection to this life force. I can't help it. This energy or this love that's out there. There's this power, spiritual power out there that opens us up to the idea that these people aren't gone.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, that's just yourself trying to console your grief. No, when you truly experience it, you feel your loved one there with you, or you see them. I saw my grandmother after she passed, people have these experiences to let you know there's more to this life than this material world. And I think that's the important reminder about death, that this is a temporary thing, this life.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not the end either.
Yeah. No. I've experienced so much that it's not really a question of, I mean, again, can only say what I've had happen and what I've read about, and that there's too many to just be put down to wishful thinking or coincidence or any of that stuff.
Now, how are you going now with your your development and your journey? You're doing. What is it like to kind of like grow your abilities? Like, what are you doing to kind of like hone in more on the medium? I know you talked about doing the spiritualist church and some of the development circles. What is that like to kind of develop these abilities?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I go to these now. I was going to a regular one with what they call a closed circle, which I got invited to, and that was moving along nicely. We would just practice each week or every 2 weeks, and just we'll have typically the same people in the group in the closed circle, but we don't know anything about each other than what we bring to the circle. So that there's no second guessing or
Right.
there's no, well, I knew that he got that job last week or something like that. So yeah, I find that very useful. And you just don't know, these things come through and you blurt it out and people validate it. And I think, I personally had like a 100% success rate so far. It's very small, like I won't give that much information at this stage. I'll see a few images and then I'll know that I'm done. I'm not giving names. I'm not giving locations or anything like that yet. And let's see where it goes. And I think that's all you can do. Just keep practicing. I'll take a workshop where I can. If I see like a particularly great teacher, I'm going to see Gordon Smith in a couple of nights at the Arthur Findlay School. I don't know if you know that place.
I know Gordon Smith, but not.
So it's called the Arthur Findlay College. It's kind of like the X-Men school, right? It's like people go there and do and stay for a week and just like really go deep diving.
Oh man, I want to go. I want to go.
Yeah. I've never been there actually. It's my first time going there, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing him give a demonstration because
you're living my dream, man, spiritually. Like I'm a parent with 2 sons and life, and I can't travel. I do this show to kind of like, it's my way of traveling, to get to meet you and all these other interesting guests I have on. I would love to be able to go to a spiritualist church or get involved in a school like the X-Men, because my personal philosophy is is like, I'm trying to develop these abilities now. I want to get back into it. I used to really early in my 20s really got into seeing auras, and I would do tarot card readings, and I always knew if I did a reading for somebody, I had no clue about them at all, who they were, their past or anything. That reading always ended up being way better than the readings I did for people I knew, because I had no impressions to go off of. So it's always the first thing that comes to my mind. It's easy. I have nothing to chatter away and say, no, that can't be right,
Yeah.
So it always made it easier to read for people I don't know. I want to get back into that. It's basically lately in my life, it's like spiritually, I've studied a lot of different religions, and my mom became a Buddhist, and I had some real deep interests in Buddhism, but I'm not ever settled down on one religion. For me, I tell people my closest thing to my religion is the Force. What I learned in Star Wars from Yoda, that spiritually is like closest thing to my belief system. But I also feel like the Force is like, Jedi are able to move things and stuff like that with their mind or whatever. Yeah, I'm not saying we can do that, but there's a game out called Jedi Fallen Order, and there's Jedi Survivor, and in that the character has the same ability I had, which is they call it echoes. He touches something and he can get echoes from it, the past. I'm like, see, they're pulling in actual real psychic stuff into the Star Wars franchise and the Force, and I love it because psychometry, is what they're doing. And that's what I've experienced. By holding things, I've gotten information, like touch. You're connecting to its energy. And I want to explore these abilities because I feel like we need to open our minds up. It's not for power or power's sake or doing parlor tricks or anything like that sense. It's to discover the human ability, that's beyond just this physical world, this human perception that we have and can use to understand it more.
Yeah, definitely. And you sound absolutely that you're on the 100% the right track. When one of the first things I think that to go when you have a spiritual awakening or an experience like we some of the ones we've talked about is your ego just like gets right out of the way, right? That I feel like that's the first casualty kind of waking up to this stuff, you know. And if you're coming from it as a sense of, well, I just want to, you know, be some medium on a Netflix show or something like that, then you know that's the wrong. You're not going to get there. That you're not going to, you know, that's the wrong attitude towards it. You know, looking for any kind of validation or fame out of it or something like that is not the right path. But yeah, when you're going at it with an open mind, just to see where this goes, or like you said, to connect with other people, then that's the right way.
And it's connecting with what you mentioned in the book, and I believe as part of it is your higher self.
Yeah.
You know, that part of you that is the real you. You know, I think that's the biggest part of that realization when it really hits you. That
definitely. And another thing I find is that you kind of can't work on that until you've worked through other stuff, you know. Like you can't sort of shine that light if you're like harboring some sort of darkness, you know. Like you sort of have to check yourself first before you start on any of this, I think. And I feel that maybe that's kind of just coming to me now, like the sort of catalyst when you go through something like a loss or something profoundly life-changing, then like all the other stuff just gets out the way, and that kind of opens you up to a more pure way of looking at things, right?
Get you to let go.
Yeah. So you're not coming at it through ego or anything like that. It's you. That makes sense, actually. You know, just kind of losing someone, and then it just takes you back to your core, what you're saying. You know, the higher self, and then you open up to these experiences. So there's no wonder that people have plenty of experiences in that state.
It's because I think it's a part like of, you know, a reason I never like sold totally into like Buddhism or even into Jedi. You know, they talk about attachment. There's an important thing about how attachment to things, objects, people, lives, love, everything that we have our attachments to what our ideas of our ego, or our attachments to attachments. Or you know, they can be the things that distract us or keep us or get us off our path. But they're also the things that can be catalysts to opening our minds and our hearts up to a new idea. You know, your attachment to your mother, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, we identify with things. We identify with our jobs, or I'm this or I'm that. And you know, those things put those things in perspective. You know, you do that, you know, you do that for a living, but that's not you. You know, there's something behind it all.
Yeah, it's deep thoughts. Again, more people need to have them. That's what I'm saying. We got to go to our last commercial break. We have a half an hour left. Anybody else wants to call in, just wait till we come back from this commercial break. The phone lines will be back open after this commercial break. But our guest tonight is Phill Webster, the author of Letting Glow, A Guide to Intuition, Spirituality, and Living Consciously. We're going to talk more of these deep thoughts about the consciousness, the inner mind. To me, it's the place where the least explored place in humanity. We've explored oceans and getting into space, but we really need to look here inside. What are we? Who are we? What is that inner mind that's watching the monkey mind talk? Deep thoughts on Paranormal Soup tonight when we come back from the short commercial break.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote spirits of the dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Phill Webster. He's the author of Letting Glow, a guide to intuition, spirituality, and living consciously. Getting a lot of deep thoughts. Had some great calls tonight, great sharing experiences tonight. That's what I always say on the show. We got to share our experiences. This is an open place and forum where nobody judge you on what you've experienced. We all should just learn from it and compare our own experiences to it. There's so much more going on in reality and the spiritual world around us every day in our lives that most people don't recognize or see. But I think a lot of you that watch this show or listen to this show, you do see the signs, you do see the moments and have these experiences and are paying attention. And that's what I think Phil's book is trying to get people to look and pay attention to what's going on in their own minds, their hearts, their feelings, their lives. We live in the now. Now is the only thing that's happening. Is right now, it's gone. Now we're now. We get into all that and deep thoughts tonight with our guest, Phill Webster. Call in, join the conversation. Let me make sure the phone lines are open. They are open now. Call in, join the conversation tonight, but let's go ahead and get back to our guest. So, like I said, you get a lot of deep thoughts in this book. That's why I do enjoy it, because, you know, you can get somebody that's been, you know, I know of all the answers and spiritual guru, have you read The Secret? You know, but you are somebody that's going through the journey now. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I think, a great place for people to, when they're starting, is to go through it with somebody else and experience the way you are.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as a kind of like soft introduction to spirituality, right? You know, if you again, I've always kind of had an interest in this here and there over the years, but it never sort of served me practically. So I didn't really know what to do with those experiences I might have had along the way and stuff like that. And then it's only been the last 2 years that I've really deep dived into it. And yeah, you know, again, I'm still at the start of my journey, and I'm learning as like tonight I'm learning, you know, like when people are calling in and I'm hearing about these things. Yeah, let's see where it goes, and hopefully we can help each other.
That's why I think it's important. You know, I love the idea of this. I want to learn more about this school of Gordon Smith, because I always said there needs to be more guidance for people. I mean, you have books, you have people that are teach and all that, but it'd be great if you had a place where people could come together, a Jedi temple, you know, but a place where people come together and develop off of each other, their abilities.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm fortunate that over here that, you know, I guess it stems from the big sort of Victorian era interest in the paranormal and mediumship in particular, that we have a lot of places that still exist from those days. Another place is called the College of Psychic Studies, which is in London. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I have.
Yeah.
Don't know much about it, but I've heard, you know, there's like several different institutions that try to enhance or help people or learn or come up with their own systems and stuff like that. I'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah, that was one of my first like ports of call, because it's relatively close by to where I am in London. And it's just kind of nuts that place exists, you know, now it's not like I'm quite familiar with the place and I enjoy going there. But I remember walking past it before all this, thinking, "What? It's College of Psychic Studies?" But it's amazing.
Sign me up.
You know? Yeah, they do workshops. They do online workshops. I'm now sounding like a spokesperson for them. But yeah, I've learned a lot there, and I've met some mediums. I think it was Arthur Conan Doyle, right? The writer. He kind of helped finance the place. And it's still standing where I think it moved and wherever it's been for a long time now. Yeah, amazing places, and I feel fortunate that we've got those. Haven't you guys got something there's a place in New York or around New York?
There's a few that I can't think of a name right now, but there's a few different. Yeah, I mean, we even have towns. There's like certain little towns that are like psychic towns.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's in New York, and I can't think of the name at the moment. Somebody will in the chat room, because we've mentioned it on the show. I can't think of the name. It's going to drive me nuts, the town. But I'd love to go there. You know, I'd love to commune with people. Like, that's the thing. I've always felt like jealous of people that have like a spiritual group, Christians or Buddhists or people that have a faith and they have a group, they can come together. I always felt outside of that because my belief system doesn't like fall into a lot of things. I've had people say, "Well, you're a mystic. You need to get into the spiritualist church." I'm like, "Great, where's one?" You know, it's like we need more of something for people that have. Nobody's coming in with some kind of dogma idea of what everything is, but we can come together with the idea we're all experiencing these things, and you know, be it, you know, psychic visions or reincarnation dreams or, you know, any of these like, supernatural experiences or everyday experiences, in my opinion, that we can come together as a community or a communion to understand together, I guess, to grow together with.
Yeah, that's it. And like when you use that word supernatural, I'm just sort of playing with words a little bit, but one thing I like to think of it is like supernatural, right? You know, it's again like sort of semantics, I suppose, but you know, when we all have these experiences that, you know, we get a moment of intuition or gut feeling and stuff like that, but then when you start using words like premonition or you know, psychic impressions, we're talking about the same thing. But you know, a certain group of people will look at like, you know, they'll be rolling their eyes when you look at it like that. But they will agree that they can, you know, cut the air with a knife when they walk into a room where someone's had an argument. So you know, these things are clearly a thing, and it's just a matter of tuning into them.
Yeah, paying attention.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are experiencing it. They just are not paying attention to it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, again, getting distracted and thinking, well, okay, great. What do I do with that? And then, you know, going to work.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel, I mean, when people say, oh, what energy, blah, 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 like, think about it. You're not thinking about your experiences, because I think everybody's experiences, like you mentioned, the tension in a room when two people are arguing, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
you know, that's energy.
Yeah. Or you go into a place that you just don't feel right there. Like I was talking about the movie theater and stuff like that. You know, I mean, people will argue that, okay, you're picking up on signals from someone, or someone's cold reading this and that, but you know, when you start getting into it and having these experiences for yourself, that I don't know how to explain them. They happen. I don't know where they're coming from. You know, I'm slowly putting this all together, but they're a thing.
Well, there's the force. I keep saying it, but there's an energy. There's a force. There's an energy from humans and all over, not just humans, but from everything, every living creature, rock, everything, an energy field between everything that you can feel it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's real. You know, and the only reason people don't believe in it is because they're not paying attention to it.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. That the slipstream superhighway. I'm going to try and trademark that. No,
talk a little bit more about this slipstream superhighway.
It's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The force. You know, just there's there is this energy that's running alongside us, or
a current,
so much, right? I mean, when you were talking about living in the moment of now, I mean, that's a whole other topic for this. That's probably a whole other podcast. But and I feel that I'm not, you know, smart enough to try and sort of dissect it completely. But again, speaking from my own experience, when you tap into that and you realize that the linear time is just kind of nuts, you know, I mean, it's a thing. We can see that we get old, or a plant sort of decays or stuff like that. So there is some sort of linear experience, but ultimately the only way we can experience anything is right now, all the time, right? Everything else is just a memory or something that we're anticipating. There's nothing but now, and when you tap into that, it can be quite overwhelming.
It's when you start. I mean, great minds have gone into thinking about space, time, you know, and trying to dissect it and what it is, and you know, I think we all can tell that time is one of the most amazing things happening to us, and it's you know right now. Every moment's gone.
It's nuts. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't want to put you back into that mind thing you got into in the book where you said it like, and I found that really interesting in a point in your life that you got your mind like really stuck on this idea, like you had trouble getting out of it.
I mean, so this is another interesting sort of topic, and something that's been quite popular lately. And again, I'm not dismissing mental illness as you know, that people have problems for sure. We know we do, and we need medical professionals, right? But oftentimes, and it seems to keep coming up more and more, that people are having these kind of spiritual breakthroughs that are getting misdiagnosed as psychosis. And I had this myself, just from out of the blue, just waking up one morning once again in that state, and then just kind of getting this thing, again, what is it? An information that time's non-linear. And it wasn't a new thought that I had. I'd had this thought before, but all of a sudden I felt thrust into it.
A realization.
Sorry?
It's like it's a realization, like it's
it was like something shifted, and it was absurd, and I threw me into a panic attack. This is about 10 years ago, just completely out of the blue, and all of a sudden, like all sort of thoughts of the past and the future just disintegrated, and it was like now all the time, you know. And this is a state that people strive for, but to me at the time it was overwhelming. It was like terrifying. It was almost as though I was outside of myself, just watching this whole thing take place, and just like linear time just seemed nonsensical. I went to see a doctor about it and explained to them what was going on. They were like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like psychosis." I was like, "What?" You know, that was terrifying me even more. I went to see another doctor, same thing, and I was going about for months. I could barely function with this thing. It was overwhelming, and I sort of make light of it now, but at the time, I truly thought I was going insane. And I eventually went to see a psychiatrist who was a hypnotist, and I thought, okay, just hypnotize this thing away. I just want to get back to the herd. I want to just get on with life, you know.
You want to take the blue pill.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, no, man. He's like, you're fine, man. You're just having like a breakthrough. You're experiencing, real reality, right? And he used the same word. He used the word mystic, which at the time I felt very awkward about. I felt almost uncomfortable for him. I was like, mystic, really? We're going to go there?
We're throwing this word out there, right?
Yeah, like I was like, just make whatever this thing is go away. But yeah, in hindsight, 100%, it was some sort of breakthrough, and yeah, I definitely took something away from that, that I feel like I can tap into, when needed.
What was it like? I mean, were you like, I know probably it's hard to describe, but when your mind was in that state, was it just that you were becoming fixated on each moment? Like,
it was just like this ultimate realization that there's nothing but now, and it sent me into like a panic. I was looking at time rather than linear as a spiral, that everything's happening right now, which obviously opens up a whole other conversation that I'm probably not qualified to have, right? But it's just this whole, if everything's happening right now, then what? Everything that could happen is happening right now, or ever has happened is happening right now. And that's just something else entirely, right?
It's a movie. I've always looked at it as like it's a movie reel. All the frames are there in the future. All the frames are there in the past. You're in this frame right now. Nope, you're in this frame right now. Nope, you're in this frame right now. Yeah. It's like it all existed before, after. It's all there. It could be all put. If you backed up from that movie reel thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet, it would be a little dot.
That's it, and that's what, isn't that like along the lines of what Einstein said, essentially, that it's relative to where you look at it. And I regret bringing science into this already, because again, not qualified, but the smarter people than us, no disrespect, have come up with this, talking about these things, Stephen Hawking, and there are these theories every few years, and no one's really getting any further. But there does seem to be something to this whole multi-dimensional of possibilities, this horizon of everything happening that could happen, being out there, just waiting for you to choose it.
Yeah, the quantum realm, in a sense. Yeah. Well, I find that all the Einstein used to go on his dream walks, basically, like in his mind, he would think about these concepts. He was probably tapping into some higher conscious stuff going on there with Einstein. Yeah. But, deep ideas of what time and everything is. But what I think why science misses it a lot is that they go down to all the math, the physical, but there's the spiritual part that's missing. And they're looking outside at the physical universe and the physics of the universe, but the real answers are here, and how consciousness works, how the mind works.
Yeah, and I've read some fascinating books lately on, and I'm just completely blanking on the authors' names, of scientists that have essentially had similar experiences to what we're talking about, and then just kind of going through the whole thing and come to the conclusion that science is essentially like a religious institution in itself, that they just don't want to know, because that's people's livelihoods and titles at stake. It calls their whole careers into question if they start saying, yeah, okay, maybe this is a thing.
They don't know the right question, and they're getting the answer 42. Well, that's what it feels. It's like I read a book many years ago. My dad had a lot of books on quantum physics. He's more of into the science area stuff, and he had a book by, was it Ambika Swami or something like that? It was a Self-Aware Universe. He was a physicist that really gets deep into these ideas, saying that the universal theory for everything is we're missing the one aspect, is a lot of this could be found in the spiritual answers and the answers of the ancients and and these spiritual ideas and concepts. And he's a physicist, a scientist that's delving deep into this. Now, this is a book from like the late 90s maybe.
No, well, that's it, isn't it? These people have been having these experiences for hundreds of thousands of years, and in the last couple of 100 years, we've come up with all the what we think are all the answers. But yeah, going back to the kind of that tapping into the moment of now, or psychosis or whatever, back in in ancient cultures, that would be considered they called it the shamanic sickness, right? Like where somebody would go through that, and then that person would become the medicine person of whatever their environment, and revered, through having an experience like that, and then sort of coming out of it on the other side, and then people would go to those with their sort of spiritual dilemmas.
It would be the Jedi of their people.
Yeah, that's it.
My wife recently just had a realization. She goes, I think I just finally get what you were saying about Star Wars, is that all the Jedis are all the Jesuses of all the planets. They're like the special prophets. I'm like, yeah, but the essence is my belief about it is we all can tap into the Force or whatever this is, or these abilities. There's just some people that maybe it's past lives or maybe it's their experiences in life that have a easier way to connect to it, maybe, or it's just natural to them.
So
but in the end, I think all of us have this ability.
You're going the Ryan Johnson route. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on Last Jedi.
I wouldn't dare.
It would have been. Oh no, I won't get started on that. I won't get on this. I just had this conversation like 4 or 5 hours ago with my son too. Yeah, sequels in this house are a bad conversation, but no, there is some stuff in that movie I did like. But yeah, it is the idea that we all have this connection, or we can all tap into this. Some of us in varying degrees. And you talk about all the different abilities. Some people are stronger in one ability than the other. I think that is good for some people to discover what they're strong in, so they can go further into it. But I think all abilities are available.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that same thing, like my primary thing seems to be that I'll get visuals of somebody and I can describe somebody at the time, and somebody so far, like I said, sort of 100% success rate, and people have confirmed that. And then what I find interesting is that after that, I won't remember. I won't remember the person I've just described.
Right. I had that with tarot reading. I'd do a reading for somebody and I'd tell them stuff, and then they'd come back to me, go, "Oh, you told me this, and that was did come true."
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And I don't even remember that I told them that. I don't remember. It's like, and I had one medium friend say, yeah, of course you don't remember because it's not your information. It's not, you don't need to remember it. It was for them, not you.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. When we take ourselves out of the picture as well, that's another thing again about ego. It's not about us or who are bringing the message through. It's for the greater good, right? It's not, I'm not doing this, you're just the conduit.
Yeah, exactly. It's it could be a humbling experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I've seen mediums work and heard their voices change. What the experience that I had first time with my mum coming through, the medium's whole demeanor changed. Her voice changed. Her accent changed. She had a very strong London accent, and then all of a sudden she had this Northern England accent, which was my mum's accent, which just knocked me out. And her way of speaking and everything is amazing.
Yeah, and I've heard that from other people's encounters. I haven't ever had a medium on the show that really does that yet. When they're like almost channeling somebody, but that's got to be a really freaky experience to witness, like somebody changing their demeanor like that and taking on, like I've had some channelers on the show. I don't know how I've always felt about it. Like, not that it's not real, but like I don't know if I would ever want to develop that ability. I don't know. That's just to like change your demeanor and talk to somebody like that. I don't know if I'd want that.
I've met a couple, and they both of them loved it. They were like, Well,
I know. It seems like they're totally comfortable with that ability. For me, it's like, nah. I don't want to be like Whoopi Goldberg and having Patrick Swayze jump inside me or something. I don't want that. He's a hot guy, but I don't need him inside me. My friends joke on me for that comment there, but but I'm just saying, like, there's certain abilities like you can develop. You don't have to channel somebody to communicate. Like you see symbols or you get stuff. There's different ways people can do it. I think.
And I've been learning about different sort of areas of mediumship. Some people approach it from a different sense, like when they kind of open themselves up when you go into meditation, and sort of open yourself up to messages coming through. And one method is that opening the chakras kind of in front of you rather than within you. And apparently there's a difference in the messages that you get, where a lot of mediums will, supposedly. I'm still, again.
I'm interested in this because I've experienced the chakra, the ability. I can feel them before I knew what chakras were in my 20s. I thought I had a tumor because of the stuff going on from my crown chakra in my head.
Yeah. Well, so apparently, opening them close to yourselves, then you're going to feel that if somebody that passed with a heart attack or had various health issues, that you'll feel that. But the theory is in keeping them away from you, it's more about they can just tell you. You don't need to actually experience physical pain.
To be
able to relay a message that somebody passed away from a heart attack, essentially.
Yeah, and I've had mediums. They say they'll feel this or that, or they feel like something to the head. I'm like, I don't think they're like in dire pain, but they do like somehow get messages, like certain parts of their body tell them.
Yeah.
But you don't want to feel the heart attack,
Yeah, apparently some don't. I've heard both sides of the argument, and the other side is to not feel it is that, well, spirit can give you this communication without you necessarily having to feel uncomfortable about it.
For you, you say you see things visually. I've had this experience. I would like to get your idea on, like, sometimes I get in a meditative state, and your eyes are closed. You see the purple from the chemical reaction or the darkness, your eyes closing. I will see that purple swirl, and then I will start to see images. They're like right out here in front of. It's like I have an eye inside my head.
Yeah.
My eyes are closed. If my focus goes up here, I can see things, people, places, images, weird things. I don't know.
Well, it makes perfect sense, right? With the third eye chakra and then the color as well being traditionally kind of indigo.
It is always. It's like I'm watching it in purple and not black and white, but it's like colored in purple.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Straight off the bat, yeah, definitely.
I've been wondering how I could develop that or like use it. I've not used it. Like I haven't been able to test. Like, what am I seeing here? What's the messages? Sometimes I have gotten some stuff that's meant something to me.
That's it, isn't it? That's where having like-minded people or a circle comes into helping, right? Because when you're sitting at home doing it on your own, like I moved into this place recently, and I definitely got a lady come through just when I was sitting in meditation when I first moved in, and I got all these impressions that it was somebody that lived here before, that was some sort of entertainer at the local theater down the road.
Wow.
And again, knew that this wasn't me just making it up. I saw this lady, she had 80s haircut and all sorts of sort of stuff, but I got no one to confirm it with. So I'm like, okay, well, what
do I do with that? Right.
She was here, and I'm pretty sure she was here. I believe I've heard it as well, actually. That's another thing. But yeah, I've got no one to confirm it. So yeah.
I've had those experiences. You get information. It's like, I can't do anything with that. Like I had some of my stuff is dreams. Like I've dreamt a lot of stuff that's come true. Like I'll either dream it exactly as it'll happen, or I'll dream it metaphorically as symbols. Like one was a person I knew I would work with, hadn't talked to her in a while. And I had a dream about her screaming about my baby drowning. And then a day or two after that dream, and I told my wife about that dream, because I was like, I don't know what that means. And she calls me to tell me she's pregnant. My wife's like, well, why is she calling you? I'm like, I had nothing to do with that. But she was calling me because she was excited because we had talked about these things when we'd worked together. And for some reason she felt like telling me. And that dream came to my mind as I'm talking on the phone. I didn't say a word to her about it. She ended up losing the baby.
Oh, damn.
I mean, what would I do? I mean, what could I have said there? There's no way I was going to say, hey, I had this dream. At that moment, she's too happy and telling me about this, that I had this dream, you're going to lose that baby. That I had a dream it was drowning. I didn't know that meant miscarriage or not. I didn't know. But why, to this day, I go, why would I have that? Why? Still don't understand why she called me. And two, don't know why I had that dream. Was I supposed to tell her? It was just... Those things kind of bother me still about these abilities. Like, I mean, I've had stupid dreams. I've like dreamt of something happening and it does, but it's stupid. It means no meaning. Like, is it just to prove to me that it's real? I don't know.
It sounds like you're really intuitive. It sounds like you're completely in touch, or further along than I am by the sound of it. Yeah.
Well, it's all by happy mistakes or not happy mistakes sometimes. Like I'm saying, it's all. I'm not controlling it, It's the force. It tells me when it's going to show me something or something happens. I couldn't just make it work on a dime. Like it's like I always compare a lot of paranormal activity and psychic abilities to the Warner Brothers Dead Frog thing. The frog would dance and sing like "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling" for the guy, and then he'd go and take the frog and like bring it out, and it's dead frog. It's not dance for anybody. That's like what I compare the paranormal to. It's like it's not going to be your show. It's not going to dance for you when you want it to.
Yeah. But, maybe you would. Maybe through practice you could sort of turn it on when you needed to. But, I mean, some of the best mediums also say that they can't guarantee that it's going to work every time, right?
Right. Well, they couldn't. Nobody's a god. Nobody can have 100% of the answers,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen good mediums on this show not get stuff right for people, but I know they're good. I know I've seen them get it plenty of right, but they can't get everything. You would make them god. Nobody wants that. Now, I'm interested before you go. I mean, one, I want to make sure people get information. You have a website for people to go to?
Yeah, just started it. There's not much there yet. The book's on there, and I think I've wrote one blog post so far. I need to get on it, and I'm thinking about doing maybe what could be interesting is doing like a sort of get together, like an online sort of couple of weeks event, like talking like a somewhat of a circle that we can sort of practice together as intuitives. But it's just an idea at the moment. But yeah, that's Phill Webster.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that we could sort of practice together and progress along and hold each other accountable to, delving into this, and developing.
I'd be interested in it. Let me know, because that's what I'm saying. I have nowhere in Indiana, say that I know of nearby, where I can develop like this, to do that.
No, I wanna look into that. I'm like useless with the actual website details, so I need to get somebody else to help me with it. But yeah, it's phillwebster.com, Phill with 2 L's, and then pretty much I'm most active on Instagram, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, if you do put together something like that, like a development circle online, I want to know about it. I'd love to get involved. I'd like to develop my own abilities. I've had so many guests on here now tell me you're tuned in, or you have the abilities from all my experiences. But like I said, I'd like to be able to, like, if I wanted to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not like have it be happenstance that it happens.
Yeah, like have a community of people that we get together at this time at the same time, and then just focus on that for a couple of hours. I think that's the only sort of way to progress, at least with myself, and be able to I don't know if validate's the right word, but be able to get, like to practice.
And it's also maybe it's its own energy when you bring people together like that. With an intent.
Yeah.
They all have the same intent. You're all going to build upon energy-wise each other, and help. Just the energy of the intent itself could help each individual involved grow. Yeah,
that's definitely what I get from these physical circles that I go to. So that would be kind of cool to.
Maybe it's like its own conduit to the spirit world. Like the skull experiment was mediums getting together at a scheduled time and like a ritual kind of practice to connect to the spirit world, and it got stronger and stronger and stronger the more they did it. It took years of development. I think that's the same for a development circle like that too, for everybody involved, that you'll all be like a conduit to connect to that energy more.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been, proven, like a lot of mediums, proven within these circles, that a lot of mediums have worked online through the pandemic and stuff like that, and found that they could just as easily give readings as they could.
Oh, they've done it on my show for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this, Phill, we got to go, but if you get to a point in your mediumistic abilities or want to test it out on the show, and I shouldn't even say test. I don't like calling it a test. It's not a test. You can get things wrong. There's no test. There's no right or wrong. But if you ever want to come on the show and take calls and try that with the audience, we have people that guess, and nobody's going to judge you, because I've done it. We've done psychic development night on here with the audience, where we do psychic games, and maybe I'll do tarot cards, or Jamie and Rob will do their oracle cards, or I'll just try to do a reading for people. I've tried to use it to develop on my show. I'll have even people who want to test themselves call in. I'll put them on a line and have a caller from the audience call in and have them try to read each other.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I like.
That's what's great about open phone lines. So if you ever want to do that, I mean, heck, we could call it a psychic development night, and you can test yourself, and we can test. I hate calling it test. I don't know what other way to call it, but put yourself out there and let your abilities flow. Let it flow, because you wouldn't know anybody calling in.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I'm so, like I say, sort of hesitant to put myself out there as a medium. Like I don't want to, mostly don't want to upset my peers. Like who's this guy sort of stepping in out of nowhere and trying to explain what's going on when I'm learning myself. But we've got to do it at some point.
We could just call it a psychic development night. You're developing, I'm developing, the audience is developing, and we can give it a shot. Well, thank you so much, Phill, for being on the show. You've been an excellent guest, and like I said, love to have you back on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I'd love to come back.
And thank you for doing it so early in the morning across the pond. I always appreciate my England guests. All right, guys, that's it for the show. We will be back next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel. Next week, Kevin Jeffers, The Pattern, exploration of consciousness. Kind of the theme right now this month is deep diving into who we are, our soul, our consciousness, and these abilities. All that here next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. 2 a.m. Eastern. and then 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Follow, subscribe, keep sharing it out with your friends. Tell them about Paranormal Soup, an open forum and place where we can all discuss our experiences with no judgment at all. Because, you know, we got to talk about this weird life we call reality and the weird stuff that goes around us every day and compare notes. That's what we do here every Sunday night. Thank you, Phil, for being on. Thank you for everybody for watching. Have a great night. See you next Sunday.